43%. Chapter 141 by Family, Zhao Lin. Zhao Lin. Chen Daojun retreated for a few steps, standing in the distance and looking at Bai Ruer's back. It's really not good, forget it. Chen Daojun couldn't help but shook his head. The purpose of his coming here was not to like Bai Ruer very much, and he didn't even have any feelings for her. It's just because the other party can give birth to a son for him, it's that simple. Cultivation base is getting faster and faster, and he is also very desperate. If this continues, there will be no more than a few 110,000 years, and it is impossible to get pregnant. His current cultivation base is about to break through immemorial golden immortal, so he has a deeper understanding of Wan Dao. Chen Daojun knew very clearly that if he wanted to conceive Lu Ling, he needed to continue dual cultivation with her, so as to slowly condense a fairy fetus in her body. This process is impossible without dozens or hundreds of 10,000 years, and this 110,000 years is not doing nothing, and the average daily dual cultivation starts 5 times. Calculated in this way, I don't need to do anything during my 110,000 years. Moreover, his cultivation base will also increase, and it will be extremely fast, so this time will only be extended more. At this moment, a clean-looking man came from a distance. He looked at Bai Ruer by the stream, with disgust flashing in his eyes. The man was still holding a lot of clothes in his hands. He walked up directly, threw the clothes on the ground, and said coldly, "Bai Ruer, the lady asked you to wash these clothes. She said that you are not allowed to go home until you finish washing tonight." When Bai Ruer heard this, she immediately raised her head, her eyes were full of pleading. "Zhao Lin Dage, there are so many clothes here, I can't finish washing them." Zhao Lin looked at her face, the disgust in his eyes became more intense, and he even felt like vomiting. "This is the lady's decision. Don't go to bed until you finish washing. Anyway, you can only go back after washing." After finishing speaking, he hurriedly left, and he was not relieved until he had walked a long way. "This ugly thing is really disgusting." Zhao Lin patted Owen's chest lightly. After Zhao Lin left, Bai Ruer stared blankly at his back, not knowing why, but feeling extremely sad in her heart. When she was bullied and thrown stones by the younger generation of the Bai family, she didn't feel like crying. When the eldest lady refused to let her eat, she didn't cry either. She went back to Bai's house, but the guards at the door acted as if they didn't know each other, and when she was not allowed to enter the house, Bai Ruer didn't cry either. But at this moment, her eyes seemed to be bursting, and the tears of Doda kept flowing out, and she felt colic in her heart. Bai Ruer didn't know why, she just lay on her lap like this, crying heartbreakingly. In the distance, when Chen Daojun saw this scene, a strange light flashed in his eyes. The reversal came so quickly. Zhao Lin actually hates Bai Ruer so much. According to the plot that the system told him, it shouldn't have developed like this. Could it be that seeing Bai Ruer so ugly made Zhao Lin not interested in her? It's very possible. Chen Daojun suddenly felt sorry for Bai Ruer. For a mortal, he missed countless epochs, and an epoch is 1,000,000,000 years. For such a long time, Bai Ruer worked so hard to break through a mortal emperor, just to come back and reunite with Zhao Lin. Therefore, I also suffered from the backlash of the avenue. Although the backlash of the avenue will not reduce the cultivation base, it will damage the foundation. If you want to break through in the future, you must first repair the injury of the avenue. But it is such an ending. It's really sad. Chen Daojun couldn't help but sighed deeply. This Bai Ruer is also a tragic figure. His waist changed, from the original exquisite clothes to the appearance of rough clothes and books. But Chen Daojun didn't go forward immediately, but quietly waited for Bai Ruer to finish crying. Watching Bai Ruer calm down slowly, after washing the clothes again, Chen Daojun walked up and sat down opposite Bai Ruer. Bai Ruer was startled, and turned her head away quickly, for fear that Chen Daojun would be frightened by her own terrifying face. Chen Daojun didn't talk to him, but took the pile of clothes beside him and started to wash. Many of these clothes are clean, it is probably just that the eldest lady of the Bai family wants to bully Bai Ruer. After a while, Bai Ruer turned her head and looked at Chen Daojun carefully. Although she had a lot of strange cuticles on her face, which made her look a little scary, but her eyes were clean and clear, like pearls, very beautiful. Bai Ruer's eyes were still slightly rosy. She looked at the strange man in front of her washing her clothes, her eyes were full of doubts. Chen Daojun also noticed that Bai Ruer was looking at himself, and he raised his head with a smile on his face. Seeing this, Bai Ruer turned her head away in panic. Chen Daojun said with a smile, Some people look bright and beautiful, but their hearts are dark and dirty. Some people have ugly expressions, but they are actually very beautiful inside. You don't have to be overly inferior because of your own appearance. In my opinion, you are 10,000 times more beautiful than many people. Bai Ruer was stunned for a moment. The ugly appearance of On is accompanied from birth. Since she was a child, no one has ever said such words to herself. All the people who have come into contact with her are sneering, or avoiding like snakes, or showing disgusted expressions. Bai Ruer took a cautious look at Chen Daojun, and saw that his eyes were clean and clear, without the slightest disgust. Does he really hate himself? A strange emotion appeared in Bai Ruer's heart, and she said in a low voice, "Thank you." Her voice is like a pair of gentle big hands touching you, making you feel comfortable all over, but at the same time a bit shy and inferior. Chen Daojun didn't continue talking, but quietly washed her clothes. Seeing this, Bai Ruer hesitated for a moment and said, "My name is Bai Ruer." Chen Daojun raised his head and smiled, "Chen Daojun." Seeing Chen Daojun's smile, Bai Ruer was also slightly taken aback. So lovely. Chen Daojun was the most handsome man she had ever seen. Bai Ruer originally wanted Chen Daojun not to help her with the laundry, but Chen Daojun refused, so she silently joined the laundry lineup. With the efforts of the two of them, they finally finished washing before it was completely dark. Then Chen Daojun moved clothes with her back to Bai's house, but at a corner away from Bai's house, Chen Daojun stopped. If the members of the Bai family find out that he is helping Bai Ruer with laundry, they will definitely make things difficult for her afterwards. Seeing Bai Ruer carrying buckets of clothes into Bai's house, the guards at the door were stunned. Did you really finish washing her? The speed is so fast. Soon, Bai Ruer ran out of Bai's house again, carrying a big bucket of clothes back. Her thin arms were trembling constantly. Apparently the little arm was bearing a weight it wasn't supposed to bear. Chen Daojun, who was in the distance, saw this scene, and disappeared into the shadows with a smile on his face. After a while, Bai Ruer hurried out again, ready to thank her, but found that Chen Daojun had long since disappeared. Bai Ruer's heart suddenly showed loss and worry. Can we meet again in the future? 44%. Chapter 142 Nahi, good fortune tricks people. For this person who has only known her for a day, Bai Ruer's heart is extremely complicated, and this is also the first person who shows no dislike towards her. She turned around and walked back into the White Mansion. The two guards at the door ignored her as if they hadn't seen her. If this was replaced by other direct descendants, it is estimated that his leg would have been broken long ago. But in the White Mansion, everyone subconsciously ignored Bai Ruer, and even bullied her occasionally. Bai Ruer walked towards his remote courtyard. Although he was a direct descendant, he did not live in the inner courtyard, but where his servants lived. It's just that she is a direct descendant anyway. Even if she lives here as a servant, she still has an own yard, but the yard looks extraordinarily desolate. The ground was not even paved with floor tiles, it was all dirt roads, and there were a few small depressions left by the rain. Bai Ruer's mother left early as 3 years old, she moved to live in this yard alone. The tears were all dried up, and no one paid any attention to her. Now, Bai Ruer is completely used to this. She walked towards her own room with a numb expression. Bai Ruer. Suddenly a cold voice sounded from outside the yard. Hearing these words, Bai Ruer's eyes suddenly lit up, and she hurried out of the yard, only to see Zhao Lin looking at her with disgust. Zhao Lin said in a cold voice, "Ma'am, let you go there." After finishing speaking, he turned around and left without saying a word. Looking at Zhao Lin's back, Bai Ruer's heart felt as if it had been cut by a knife, and it hurt so much. Tears gathered in her eyes again, but this time Bai Ruer didn't cry. Bai Ruer took 2 deep breaths and murmured, "Zhao Dage." I don't know why, but I always have an inexplicable feeling for Zhao Lin, and this kind of feeling makes her deeply trapped in it. Bai Ruer didn't even know why this happened. She shook her head, walked towards the inner courtyard, passed through exquisite courtyards, and finally arrived at a relatively luxurious courtyard in the inner courtyard. At its gate, there are 2 chi refining guards guarding it. After all, the Bai family is a big family in Zilin City, and the patriarch is a cultivator in the foundation establishment period, recruiting a few chi refining period to guard the inner courtyard. There is no problem at all. Bai Ruer walked in, only to see a graceful and luxurious woman eating grapes leisurely under the service of servants. Seeing Bai Ruer coming in, her complexion also changed. She turned her head away quickly, her eyes were full of disgust and nausea. Didn't Madam Ben tell you? Lower your head when you talk to me next time. Zhou Yun's tone was extremely cold. Bai Ruer quickly buried her head deeply, and she said with some fear in her heart, "Madam, I didn't pay attention just now, please forgive me." Zhou Yun snorted coldly. "Today Mrs. Ben asked you to wash clothes, but did you cheat?" Bai Ruer quickly said, "No." Zhou Yun slapped the table and scolded angrily. "Then why can you wash so many clothes in such a short time?" Bai Ruer suddenly became hesitant. Her face was full of panic. Chen Daojun must not let the eldest lady know about Chen Daojun helping him with the laundry, otherwise he will definitely make things difficult for him, and he may even be punished with a stick. "Ma'am, I wash all the clothes myself, but after writing a lot, practice makes perfect." There was no question in Zhou Yun's eyes, this Bai Ruer is so ugly, who would be willing to help her wash clothes? But Zhou Yun still didn't intend to let Bai Ruer go. She said viciously, "Xiao Yu, give Bai Ruer all the clothes of the maids in our house, and wash them for me tonight." Bai Ruer's mother is humble, but she is loved by her own, so she always opposes her. Naturally, she held back a lot of anger in her heart, and could only vent it on Bai Ruer. Bai Ruer's face panicked immediately. The clothes she washed before were only a few close relatives of Zhou Yun. If it was the clothes of the whole house, she wouldn't be able to finish washing them even if she washed them for 2 days. Xiao Yu looked at Barauer with disgust in her eyes, and she said, "As you order, madam." With that said, she was about to get the clothes. "All right," a thick voice sounded, and a middle-aged man slowly walked out of the yard. Zhou Yun immediately stepped forward and said with a smile on her face, "Master, why are you here?" Bai Peng just glanced at her, and then said to Bai Ruer in the distance, "Go down." Bai Ruer didn't dare to look up at Bai Peng, she just nodded, saluted, then turned and left. But this scene fell into Zhou Yun's eyes, which made her even more unhappy. Bai Peng is still defending Bai Ruer, could it be that he is still thinking about that bitch? Looking at Bai Ruer's back, Bai Peng couldn't help but sigh in his heart, feeling extremely guilty. It's a pity that as the head of the Bai family, there are too many things beyond my control. The Zhou family behind Zhou Yun is a stronger existence than their Bai family. In addition, many elders in the clan have an attitude of being close to Zhou Yun over the years. It also made him, the patriarch, feel a little powerless. Bai Peng turned around and said helplessly, "Yuner, this girl Ruer has been bullied by you since she was a child. She has been bullied by you for so many years. She is also a miserable person." The smile on Zhou Yun's face froze for a moment, but immediately said again, "Master, don't worry." Bai Ruer returned to the own yard, and saw Zhao Lin was waiting outside, holding a wooden lunchbox in his hand, looking like he was waiting. Bai Ruer's face suddenly brightened, and she ran over immediately. "Zhao Dage, are you waiting for me?" "Stop." Zhao Lin quickly scolded. "Don't call me Zhao Dage, I have my own name. Secondly, I'm not waiting for you. I'm just honoring the patriarch's order and delivering food to you. Don't think too much about it. Also, can you stay away from me, you know? You are so ugly that it makes me sick to my stomach, and I still call Zhao Dage every day. Every time I hear you call me that, and see you smile at me, I can't help the cold." After finishing speaking, Zhao Lin threw the lunchbox in his hand on the ground, turned around and left, spilling more than half of the food in it. Bai Ruer was stunned for a moment. She looked down at the spilled food in front of her, her eyes suddenly became blurred. Tears rolled in her eyes, and she sat on the ground weakly, sobbing softly. At this moment, she didn't know why, but her heart was filled with despair. Everything in front of him seemed to have turned gray. Night. There was silence between the sky and the earth, and the cold wind blew slightly, but Bai Ruer didn't feel the cold. On the contrary, her heart was extremely cold. Just behind the front wall is a remote path, which belongs to the outside of the White House. Because Bai Ruer's room was originally where servants lived, it was also at the very edge of the Bai mansion. Chen Daojun sat on the ground, his eyes were full of complex colors. The system told him the whole process of Bai Ruer's voice, so only Chen Daojun knew how much effort she had put in to get Zhao Lin back. Trying everything to become a fairy, just to turn back the time and meet you again in this world of mortals. However, good fortune tricks people, 44%. Chapter 143. Time passes. All of this is like a joke made by God. The former Bai Ruer might have been good-looking, plus she was a direct descendant, so Zhao Lin thought carefully and gave Bai Ruer, a little girl who had suffered so much in the mansion, warmth. After all, even if Bai Ruer's status is low, she is still a direct descendant, the biological daughter of Patriarch Bai. However, Things backfired in the end, but such an obsession was still planted in Bai Ruer's heart. Chen Daojun's eyes suddenly became firm. Zhao Lin's kind of rubbish is not worth Bai Ruer paying so much for him. He is not worthy. Whether it's for himself or for Bai Ruer, he will do his best to make Bai Ruer forget Zhao Lin. In the following time, although Zhou Yun restrained a lot, the bullying continued. She asked Bai Ruer to do many things that the servants did. Chen Daojun appears from time to chat with her and talk about life. Although the relationship between the two has not made substantial progress, they are like close friends. Every time they are together, they seem to have endless things to say. That's it. 2 years passed slowly. The hideous horniness on Bai Ruer's face has disappeared by a third, revealing her delicate face. It's just that the overall look is still extremely unbearable, but it's much better than before. 3 streets away from Baijia, under a huge banyan tree, Chen Daojun and Bai Ruer sat here quietly. Almost no one came around this banyan tree on weekdays, and it was surrounded by some dilapidated houses, so it became the secret base of the two. Bai Ruer smiled and said, "Chen Dage, tell me, what does it feel like to like someone?" There was a trance look in Chen Daojun's eyes. To be honest, he didn't know what he liked. Want to have a baby with her? Does that count? Cough cough cough. Chen Daojun hurriedly dispersed his dirty thoughts, then reorganized his words and said, "It's very simple, you think about him, and he also thinks about you, that's liking. The more complex something is, the simpler it should be." Bai Ruer stretched out her white hand and grabbed towards the sky, as if she wanted to grab something. Then, what if the other party doesn't want you? Chen Daojun said with a faint smile, "It's so simple. He doesn't think about you, which means he doesn't love you at all. What's the point of a person who doesn't love you?" Bai Ruer's eyes suddenly became a little dazed. At this moment, her mind was in a mess, like a ball of paste. Once, there was only one person in her mind, and this person seemed to be deeply engraved in her mind since she was born. Zhao Lin. But now, this figure started to gradually blur, which made her feel mixed feelings. Frightened, restless, relaxed. Wait for emotions to fill the mind. She was worried that she would completely forget this figure, and she felt a sense of relief. And, in Bai Ruer's mind now there is not one figure, but 2 figures, but the other one is extremely vague. What am I obsessed with? After such a long silence, Chen Daojun didn't speak either. Finally, Bai Ruer stood up with a sweet smile on her face. "Thank you, Chen Dage, but I have to go." Chen Daojun nodded. "Go." Bai Ruer waved her hand, then trotted away. She came out this time to deliver a letter to a business firm under the Bai family's command. Originally, it was not up to her direct descendants to do these things in person, but it was Zhou Yun's arrangement, so she could only do it. "So when you're done, you have to leave." Chen Daojun looked at the back of her leaving, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Getting along with Bai Ruer during this time also made him feel extremely relaxed. In 2 years, his cultivation base broke through to the immemorial golden immortal middle stage, and at the same time he drew many strange things. Chen Daojun released hundreds of immemorial golden immortals out. These people did not stay in the Kanglan realm, but left directly, wandering in the heavens and myriad realms. Immemorial Golden Immortal is already a strong party in the heavens and worlds, and can enter and exit the upper and lower realms at will, so Chen Daojun is not afraid that they will get lost. The key is that he also has to upgrade the cultivation base, and the Immemorial Golden Immortal is not summoned, and the breakthrough speed is too slow only by the previously summoned characters. Time passed slowly, and another year passed like this. Bai Ruer's face also began to gradually change, both her temperament and figure became more and more attractive. Although there is still a lot of black horniness on the face, compared to before, it has dissipated by about 70%. Today, when Bai Ruer returned to the courtyard, she saw Zhao Lin standing in front of the courtyard and waiting, holding a delicate wooden box in his hand. Seeing Bai Ruer approaching, Zhao Lin immediately stepped forward, and said kindly, "Ruer, I've brought you something to eat." While speaking, he also lifted the lid on the top of the wooden box, revealing the pastries that his daughter's family loves. These pastries looked exquisite, and with Zhao Lin's identity and monthly salary, it would be a hemorrhage to buy them. Bai Ruer's expression suddenly became a little complicated. She looked straight at Zhao Lin, and her mood became very strange for a while. An indescribable strangeness. Zhao Lin continued to ask, "What's the matter, don't you like it?" These things were all eaten by Bai Ruer, who he had seen hiding secretly, and she probably liked them, so Zhao Lin went to buy them back just to please Bai Ruer. Although the previous Bai Ruer was not welcome in the Bai family, Zhou Yun was doing all of this, and the owner of the house had been taking care of her in secret. Just 3 months ago, Bai Peng, the head of the Bai family, got the help of an expert, broke through the golden core stage in one fell swoop, and became one of the most powerful men in Zilin City. During this period of time, Bai Ruer's status in the Bai family has risen, and Zhou Yun dare not bully her at will. So Zhao Lin thought a little bit carefully. This Bai Ruer has always had a good impression of her, and she might be able to take this opportunity to get rid of her humble status in one fell swoop. Besides, Bai Ruer has started to look more and more beautiful in the past few years. Maybe in a few years, those spots and cuticles on her face will completely disappear. Maybe she will still be a big beauty by then. Zhao Lin thought beautifully in his heart. Bai Ruer looked at the lunchbox that Zhao Lin handed over, and wanted to reach out to pick it up, but there seemed to be another voice in her head. Let him go. Let him go. This voice roared crazily in her mind. The sound was deafening. The things that Zhao Lin said to him and the things he did once came to his eyes one by one. Her heart also gradually calmed down. Zhao Lin, I am a direct descendant of the Bai family. What is your status? If you dare to call me Ruer, if my father finds out, I will definitely not spare you. Zhao Lin was startled. He never expected Bai Ruer to reply like this. He hastily bowed in panic and said, Miss, I know my mistake, and I made a slip of the tongue, please forgive me. Bai Ruer didn't speak anymore, but turned around and went back into the house. The ground that was originally muddy is now covered with stone bricks, and the courtyard is also filled with green plants and flowers, as well as exquisite furniture. In fact, Bai Peng wanted her to live in the inner courtyard, but Bai Ruer was used to it, so she didn't agree, including asking the maid to serve these things. She also refused one by one. In the past few years, Bai Ruer's hatred for Bai Peng has gradually let go, knowing that this father still cares about her, but sometimes he can't help himself. 44%. Chapter 144 To the Saint King Dynasty, Tianyunzong. Bai Ruer returned to the house, recalling what Zhao Lin said. Her eyes were full of complexities. Zhao Lin, before I knew it, I felt a lot more flat for this person who once loved deeply penetrates the bone. Many times, Bai Ruer was thinking about why she fell in love with Zhao Lin. But she still can't find the result. This kind of love seems to be an instinct, a choice from the heart, rather than a rational decision. But now, this sensibility is getting weaker and weaker. Bai Ruer doesn't have the same feeling for Zhao Lin as before. Back then, no matter how ugly Zhao Lin said, Bai Ruer was only sad, but when she saw Zhao Lin afterwards, she would still greet her with a smile. But now, it's hard. She can't do it. Even every time she saw Zhao Lin, another figure would quietly appear in her mind. Chen Daojun, this person who quietly appeared in her life. People who bring her joy and accompany her all the way. Shaking her head, Bai Ruer stopped thinking about these things. At this moment, a servant girl's voice sounded from outside the courtyard. I tell Miss, Master invites you to the meeting hall. Master, Bai Ruer murmured, and then responded, okay, I see. After finishing speaking, she simply tidied up, then turned and walked out of the yard. White Family Council Hall. A young and handsome figure sat at the top. His eyes were full of calm, and behind him was a middle-aged man with a majestic expression. And Bai Peng was on the sidelines, showing a flattering smile. Soon, Bai Ruer came in. Bai Peng immediately said, My lord, this is the villain's daughter, Bai Ruer. Ruer, why don't you hurry up and come to see your lord? This is the young master of Tianyan sect. Sky Cloud sect. Bai Ruer was startled. This is the most powerful sect in the Saint King's court, and I heard that it is a strong man in the period of divine transformation. How could such a powerful sect come to their Bai family? Ran Lexing glanced at Bai Ruer, and immediately frowned. So ugly. Then he watched intently. There was indeed a special aura in Bai Ruer's body, and this aura was full of spirituality. Is it really a spirit embryo? Ran Lexing's face suddenly became happy. If he swallowed this spirit embryo, wouldn't he be able to break through the nascent soul stage? But this Bai Ruer is just a mortal. If he wants this spirit embryo to have an effect on him, he must at least upgrade his cultivation base to the foundation establishment stage, or even the golden core stage. This is a bit difficult. For a mortal, if he wanted to raise his cultivation base to this level, he would have to spend a lot of money. Ran Lexing opened his mouth slowly, and said with a kind expression, I see that your daughter is talented and has an extraordinary physique, so I decided to take her as a disciple. I don't know what you want. Bai Peng was startled. "My lord, my little girl has only a mortal body, and she has no qualifications for cultivation." He actually is not refusing to let Bai Ruer join Sky Cloud sect, he just feels a little surprised. Ran Lexing said, "Bai Ruer has a special constitution, which makes her unable to practice, but you didn't find out." Hearing this, Bai Pang no longer had doubts in his heart, so he quickly said, "In this case, Ruer, why don't you hurry up and pay respects to master?" Bai Ruer hesitated, her eyes full of confusion. Although Tian Yunzong is very powerful, she is actually not willing to leave Zealand City, because there are too many concerns here. Of course, the most important thing is Chen Daojun. Once he left Zealand City, it would be extremely difficult to meet Chen Daojun again in the future. Seeing that Bai Ruer didn't respond, Bai Pang quickly said, "Ruer, what are you doing? Joining Tianyunzong is a great opportunity, why hesitate?" Bai Ruer's eyes suddenly fixed. She raised her head and said, "Father, I don't want to leave Zealand City, I want to stay here." Ran Lexing's eyes narrowed, and a powerful aura suddenly burst out, and he said coldly, "What did you say?" He didn't expect that Bai Ruer would dare to refuse. As the young sect leader of Tianyan sect, it was his first time accepting disciples to encounter such a thing. This made him feel as though his own dignity had been challenged. Bai Ruer's heart trembled suddenly, and she quickly said respectfully, "Master, my daughter wants to stay at home, please forgive me." Boom. Ranla slapped the table vigorously, his eyes were full of coldness. "Do you know what you're talking about?" He has already decided in his heart that if Bai Ruer refuses to agree, he will take her away by force. But this Bai family must not stay, and must be destroyed together. Bai Peng's expression suddenly changed. After all, he was an old man, and Ran Lexing's attitude made him understand immediately that there was no room for negotiation on this matter. But such a strong attitude also changed the attitude in his heart. "It always feels like there's another reason for this." Bai Peng quickly said, "My lord, the little girl's personality is like this, please give me something, I will definitely prepare her mentally. In any case, now is the best time to procrastinate." Ran Lexing's attitude made him feel like he would do it at the next moment. Although the Bai family has some influence in Zealand City, there is still a big gap between them and such a behemoth as Tian Yunzong. Once they fight, maybe the whole Bai family will be wiped out. Ran Lexing's eyes were cold. "Tell me to decide now, whether to go with me by yourself, or this young master to tie you up." As soon as these words came out, the hall suddenly fell silent, and the expressions of Bai Peng and Bai Ruer both changed. At this time, Bai Peng was almost certain in his heart that Ran Lexing must have had other plans for accepting Bai Ruer as his apprentice. And according to the temperament of the other party, maybe as long as you follow him, you will die with a high probability. What to do? Bai Peng was very anxious. After he broke through the golden core stage, the Bai family had more right to speak. Even if he protected Bai Ruer himself, Zhou Yun didn't dare to say more. After finally being able to make up for what I owed Bai Ruer's mother and daughter, should I send her to die now? Although he didn't know what Ran Lexing was going to do, Bai Peng felt that it was definitely a bad thing. Bai Ruer suddenly said, "My lord, I'll go with you." He also saw the situation clearly, and he seemed to have reached the point where he had to leave Zealand City. If not, the young master of Tianyan sect will definitely not let the Bai family go. The coldness on Ran Lexing's face dissipated, and he sat back on the chair with a smile on his face. "So, that's good. As long as Bai Ruer agrees to leave with him, then everything is easy to talk about." At this moment, a faint voice sounded and echoed in the hall. "Ruer, if you don't want to go, you can refuse, don't force yourself." 45%. Chapter 145 Good Memory. Bai Ruer turned her head to look, her eyes were full of shock. "Chen Dage, why are you?" As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately reacted, so she hurriedly urged, "You hurry up, this matter has nothing to do with you." At the same time, Bai Peng's expression shook. Senior. He had no hope of breaking through the golden core, but it was because of Chen Daojun that he broke through. This is the person who can help him break through at any time. Can he help the Bai family solve the problem? Chen Daojun couldn't help shaking his head and laughing. "This matter has something to do with me. Because your business is my business." Hearing these words, Bai Ruer's expression changed again, a little stunned, a little shy, a little looking forward. "Presumptuous." Ran Lexing shouted violently, his eyes were full of coldness. He didn't talk nonsense with Chen Daojun either, an extremely powerful spirit power burst out, and then charged towards Chen Daojun. Chen Daojun's eyes are dignified, as deep as the sea, making it impossible to see through. With a wave of his hand, two black holes suddenly appeared around them, and then they were sucked into it, disappearing completely. How can it be? Bai Peng's eyes were full of shock. Ran Lexing was in the golden core stage, and the people around him were the guardians of the nascent soul stage. How could they all be killed so easily? Bai Ruer on the side was also shocked, and couldn't believe what was happening before her eyes. Chen Dage, also a practitioner. And realm is very deep. Why never heard of it before? Chen Daojun said with a smile. Patriarch Bai, I will be a guest elder in the Bai family from now on, is it okay? Bai Peng's face was filled with joy. I can't ask for it. Ran Lexing was killed, and the Sky Cloud sect would definitely not let it go. Chen Daojun's cultivation base made him feel that there was no need to worry about the threat of the Sky Cloud sect. It's just too powerful. Chen Daojun smiled and said, Ruer, are you happy to see me every day from now on? Happy. Bai Ruer blurted out immediately, but immediately blushed, and said coquettishly, Chen Dage. Bai Peng watched the communication between the two. His eyes kept switching between the two, and at the same time there was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. Chen Daojun's character is very good, he had a contact before. If Bai Ruer could be handed over to the other party, he would feel more at ease. Bai Peng quickly said, Master, I will take you to the place where you live. Chen Daojun immediately shook his head. No need, I'll live next to Ruer. Beside, Bai Peng looked thoughtful. It seemed that there was a person living in the yard next to Bai Ruer, a servant of the Bai family, named Zhao Lin. But since Chen Daojun ordered, he immediately went over to make arrangements. Soon, Zhao Lin moved out and moved to another place. Zhao Lin looked at Bai Ruer and Chen Daojun standing together. His eyes were full of complexities. The key point was that the head of the family also respected him very much. Such a character was simply not something he could provoke. Hey, it seems that there is no chance. Zhao Lin's eyes were full of remorse. If he had known earlier, he would not have said those ugly words. Back then, I loved Bai Ruer and ignored her, but now the other party makes me unable to climb high. Sorry. Time passed so slowly, and 2.5 years passed in a blink of an eye. Many things happened in the past 2.5 years. Chen Daojun took Bai Ruer to play together, visited many places around Zealand City, and even visited several cities. In the courtyard of Bai's house, Chen Daojun made him the special delicacy of Blue Star barbecue. There is a stream outside Zealand City, and Chen Daojun took her to fish together. The two went shopping together, lying on chairs together at night, looking at the stars in the sky in a daze, and chatting about the happy and unhappy things together. In the past 2.5 years, Bai Ruer's heart is almost full of Chen Daojun. Zhao Lin, what is it? And Bai Ruer's appearance has also changed a lot, except for a little black horniness on her neck and forehead, there are no other places. Now her appearance is incomparably beautiful, with clear eyes, red lips, fair cheeks, and exquisite figure. She can be compared to beauties like Lin Wanqing. Now as long as she goes out alone, she can always meet people who approach her. Chen Daojun has been with Bai Ruer for 5.5 years. During these 5.5 years, he has been with Bai Ruer almost all the time. Now he really likes Bai Ruer. Bai Ruer has a quirky personality, but she is a bit mature, occasionally a little mischievous and humorous, and getting along with her is very relaxed and happy. Let Chen Daojun feel very relaxed. Sometimes he even has a kind of thought, it would be great if he could stay in this moment. For women like Lin Wanqing and Lu Ling, he is more motivated by the beauty of the other party, and he probably has nothing to do with true love. But for Bai Ruer, he really likes her in his heart. He didn't know when he started thinking this way. Even if Bai Ruer was not the reincarnation of a mortal emperor, Chen Daojun would bring her back to the celestial star realm. Think here. Chen Daojun felt a little heavy in his heart. Although there were many changes in the past 5 years, Bai Ruer almost completely forgot about Zhao Lin, and she even hated Zhao Lin in her words and deeds. But the current Bai Ruer is not the real Bai Ruer. It's just the ruthless great emperor who hasn't recovered his memory yet. After recovering her memory, Zhao Lin might become her most important person again. When the time comes, what should I do? Chen Daojun fell into deep thought, and it lasted like this for a long time. He finally sighed deeply. If this is the case, it means that there is no fate. He had been in several relationships in Blue Star, and in the first relationship, he even practiced dog licking for several years. Later, when the girl had a boyfriend, he even practiced dog licking for 1.5 years. In the end, the two were still not together. So Chen Daojun clearly understands that there are regrets in life, and it is definitely not perfect. Bai Ruer sat on the chair beside her and saw Chen Daojun in a daze, so she asked curiously. Chen Dage, what are you thinking? Chen Daojun smiled immediately. I was thinking. If you change in the future, will you still remember me? Sure, Bai Ruer replied firmly. Chen Dage, yes, the best. Bai Ruer's cheeks were slightly rosy, and she didn't know how to describe Chen Daojun for a while. Best, Chen Daojun murmured, and then closed his eyes again to rest his mind. This sentence sounds very unlucky. But it is a bit unlucky to bring a good character. But it doesn't matter anymore. Chen Daojun has also figured it out now. Cherish the present, and leave more good memories, even if the fate is really gone in the future. Let these beautiful memories accompany each other. Infatuated girl. 45%. Chapter 146 Recovery, Ruthless Great Emperor. Bai Ruer turned her head to look at Chen Daojun, and sighed deeply in her heart. Sometimes she really doesn't understand what Chen Daojun is thinking. In the past few years, her father has been hinting to her that she is almost at the age of marriage, and even said several times that she will introduce a good match to her. But Bai Ruer refused. And the purpose of refusal is also very simple, that is, to wait for someone to tell me personally. I want to marry you. It's a pity that this person is an elm-headed person. It's been so many years, and he has hinted at it many times, but he just doesn't respond at all. Do you want me, a girl, to take the initiative? It might be normal for a cultivator not to get married at the age of 25, but Bai Ruer is just a mortal, and this age is already very old for her. Thinking of this, Bai Ruer quietly took a look at Chen Daojun. Her cheeks were slightly rosy. After getting along for so long, she knew Chen Daojun's intentions very well, but why didn't she propose marriage to him? Time passed quietly. Half a year is fleeting. Bai Ruer is 25 years old. This day, Bai Ruer and Chen Daojun were sitting in that secret base, that is, under the banyan tree, talking happily, telling the memories of chatting here together. Suddenly, Bai Ruer's face froze. She froze in place. The aura of Dao in her body quietly circulated. Chen Daojun sighed. Come yet, ruthless great emperor. But soon his face changed, because the aura of Dao in Bai Ruer's body became extremely powerful, and became more and more intense. Something is wrong. According to the system, Bai Ruer should be recovering in stages, but the situation in front of her is not like recovering in stages at all. Is it a complete recovery? Chen Daojun fell silent. He thought he could be with Bai Ruer for a while, but he had to make a choice so soon. No, it should be Bai Ruer who has to make a choice. This is so sudden. The breath in Bai Ruer's body became stronger and stronger, so strong that Chen Daojun felt a little trembling. This aura enveloped the entire Kanglan realm, and everyone looked terrified, not knowing what happened. Under this breath, they felt like ants. In the end, what happened? Those top powerhouses in the Kanglan realm clearly know that an extraterrestrial powerhouse has come to this world. It is basically impossible for the cultivator in the Kanglan realm to break through the indistinguishable Dao period, and the void return period is already the limit. Even if it breaks through the indistinguishable Dao period, it is still a half-step indistinguishable Dao, and it is not an indistinguishable Dao in the true sense. And it is obviously impossible for them to have such an oppressive aura on them. It is beyond the indistinguishable Dao. Even the indistinguishable Dao cannot be born in the Kanglan realm, let alone the indistinguishable Dao, so it can only be a cultivator outside the sky. At this moment, people panic. They don't know what the other party's thoughts are about such a powerful force from Tianwei. If they come to destroy the Kanglan realm, they will have no way to resist. Toward the Saint King, Zilin City. Chen Daojun just looked at Bai Ruer directly, and he glanced at the Invincible card in the system backpack. This thing is used passively. And it is invincible in the true sense, immune to all damage. When Bai Ruer gets into trouble, I'll just run away. From Bai Ruer's point of view, he may feel that he is planning, and he may shoot and kill him when the time comes. After all, Chen Daojun doesn't think that the ruthless great emperor, who will be born countless years later, will have the same personality as Bai Ruer. Being able to call out the ruthless great emperor is definitely not a good thing. Time passed slowly. The aura in Bai Ruer's body became more and more powerful. In front of it, Chen Daojun seemed to be just an ant, an existence that could be easily crushed to death. Is this the immortal emperor? Chen Daojun was horrified. This breath is much stronger than his own, and it is not at the same level at all. Over the years, he has also broken through the immemorial golden immortal late stage, not far from the World Lord realm, but he must be far different from Bai Ruer. At the same time, Bai Ruer's eyes also gradually became clear, her temperament was as good as a fairy, and her facial features were exquisite, as if she was a perfect work of art. After recovering her strength, Bai Ruer's appearance has greatly improved again, even far surpassing Lu Ling. Of course, if you look closely, the appearance is only slightly better. After all, when beauty reaches a certain level, there is no upper limit. Being able to surpass Lu Ling by a lot comes from a kind of temperament and a visual shock of Chen Daojun in the whole person. At this moment, Bai Ruer looked at Chen Daojun with neither sadness nor joy in her eyes. How dare you plot against me? Bai Ruer's eyes were full of coldness, as well as endless alienation and indifference. As soon as the words fell, an extremely powerful aura instantly enveloped Chen Daojun, making him unable to move. At this moment, Chen Daojun was immobilized, unable to move, and even his life was at Bai Ruer's thought. But Chen Daojun didn't care at all. He looked at Bai Ruer straight in his eyes, with a little sadness in his eyes. This is the first time he has shown such emotions since time travel. Sure enough, she was most worried about what would come. Bai Ruer, who had recovered her memory, was completely different from the previous Bai Ruer. Bai Ruer's voice sounded like Tianwei. Tell me, why do you know that this emperor was reincarnated here? What the hell are you going to do? What happened in these years is vivid in his mind. What Chen Daojun did was to separate her and Zhao Lin. Chen Daojun just looked at her like this. Bai Ruer was a little angry. Speak, or this emperor will kill you immediately. Chen Daojun smiled lightly, and said directly, I came here just for you. As for why I know, I'm sorry. How dare, Bai Ruer scolded, and a stronger breath pressed towards Chen Daojun. Feeling the intense pressure around him, Chen Daojun felt as if he was about to explode, but his expression remained calm. The fact that the Invincible card was not used meant that Bai Ruer had no intention of killing herself. My purpose is simple. With a smile on his face, Chen Daojun said wildly, I just want you to be my wife, and then the two of us will have a white and fat boy together. This is my goal. Hearing this sentence, Bai Ruer's eyes trembled, but she returned to normal immediately, and she looked at Chen Daojun coldly again. You are very courageous, but the current Bai Ruer is no longer the Bai Ruer you know, and you can't possibly compare to brother Zhao Ling. The gap between the two of you is too great. Go away, I won't kill you. For the sake of taking care of Bai Ruer and Bai's family here these years, I don't care about it. I don't want to see you again. 45%. Chapter 147 Bai Ruer's Choice. After Bai Ruer finished speaking, she disappeared in place. Chen Daojun's eyes were extremely calm. He shook his head helplessly. It seemed that things were really going in the worst direction. This was the first time he experienced such helpless things. The sky above the Bai family. Bai Ruer withdrew her breath and looked at Zhao Lin, who was panicking in the Bai family, with excitement flashing in her eyes. Zhao Dage, I'm here to find you. Her figure immediately disappeared in place, and when she reappeared, she had already appeared in Bai's house, and in front of her was the courtyard where Zhao Lin was. Among the servants, Zhao Lin can be regarded as a small steward. Although he has little power, he still owns a small courtyard. Bai Ruer looked at the yard in front of her. Her heart was full of hesitation. How many years, I finally see you. She raised her foot and stepped forward, intending to knock on the door, but her hand suddenly stopped in midair. The words that Zhao Lin said to him, as well as Zhao Lin's disgusted expression towards him, appeared unconsciously in his mind. Bai Ruer retreated one step at a time. The scenes that happened in the past came to my mind again, and Bai Ruer's complexion also changed. His eyes were full of despair and deep helplessness. Zhao Dage. Why? I stepped into the practice world for you, crossed the forbidden land for you, and stayed for countless years for you, just to break through the immortal emperor and meet you again. Why are you doing this to me? Bai Ruer slumped on the ground. Her eyes were full of darkness. In front of him is the person whose heart is longing for endless years, but Bai Ruer dare not open the door. At this point, it can be said that she is all for Zhao Lin. Even when she couldn't persevere many times, thinking of seeing Zhao Lin again in the future, she continued to persevere. In order to break through the immortal emperor, how many times she has gone through life and death crises. But after she really came back, she found that all the good things in the past seemed to have disappeared. Or maybe the beauty that I once thought has changed. Why is this happening? Why? Bai Ruer kept whispering. She found that Owen was very upset. I am a mortal emperor. Who can influence me? Bai Ruer roared in her heart. She wanted to suppress the irritability in her heart, but it was of no avail. The more she suppressed the fluctuation, the more violent it would be. At this time, she was extremely helpless. She no longer knew how to deal with these things. At this moment, footsteps sounded, and Chen Daojun came slowly from a distance. He looked at Bai Ruer, who was slumped on the ground, and there was a look of pity in his eyes. Chen Daojun walked forward slowly and stopped 2 or 3 meters away from her. Zhao Lin, it's me, you choose. Hearing Chen Daojun's voice, Bai Ruer's heart trembled, the feeling of irritability intensified, and even made her heart almost explode. Many memories came to her mind, all of the good times with Chen Daojun. These good times even directly overshadowed those memories between her and Zhao Lin. Moreover, Bai Ruer can't remember the memories between Own and Zhao Lin. It's too long, so long that those memories are blurred. She has lived through countless years, and along the way, people naturally expressed their admiration for her, but Bai Ruer rejected them all. Those people are the true pride of heaven, but there is no wavering in her heart. But now when she saw Chen Daojun, her heart couldn't calm down. Zhao Lin, or Chen Daojun. She didn't know why. There would be one more person in the choice of Own. If there was no Chen Daojun, even if Zhao Lin had done those chilling things to her, Bai Ruer would have firmly chosen Zhao Lin. But now she doesn't know what to do. She didn't even know what was going on in her mind. It was all very chaotic, very chaotic. It went on like this for quite a while. Chen Daojun sighed, then turned and walked towards the outside of Bai's house. Every sound of footsteps seemed to step on Bai Ruer's heart, making her unable to extricate herself. At this moment, she was extremely helpless. What do I do? The footsteps got farther and farther away, and Bai Ruer's heart became more and more confused. Chen Daojun walked towards the back door just like that, and when he was about to leave, he turned to look at Bai Ruer, seeing that she hadn't turned around at all, with a helpless expression on her face. I still lost. That's right. How could Bai Ruer give up so easily after paying so much for Zhao Lin? Chen Daojun turned to Bai Ruer and said, Ruer, you and I, the fate is over, let's say goodbye. After finishing speaking, he walked towards the door, and the moment his front foot stepped out, Chen Daojun disappeared directly in place without leaving a trace of breath. Bai Ruer was stunned. She turned her head sharply, and the mighty divine sense instantly probed in the direction where Chen Daojun disappeared. But she didn't detect the slightest breath, and her face suddenly became extremely flustered. She immediately stood up and ran towards the back door. She looked around but did not find Chen Daojun. Before she knew it, Bai Ruer's hands were trembling slightly, and her eyes were full of anxiety. There is a feeling of really losing Chen Daojun. Her divine sense expanded again, scanning the entire Kanglan realm inch by inch, but Chen Daojun was not found. Bai Ruer even scanned several worlds around Kanglan realm, but didn't find any. Chen Daojun's whole person seemed to have evaporated into this world. Bai Ruer kept trembling in her heart, and she kept whispering. Chen Daojun, Chen Daojun. She didn't expect that Chen Daojun really left, and she couldn't find it at all, as if there was no such a person as Chen Daojun in this world. Bai Ruer stood up and walked towards the banyan tree. Looking at the iron grill next to the banyan tree, the scene where the two of them had a barbecue here unconsciously came to mind. The scene of Chen Daojun feeding her barbecue is clearly visible. In a daze, Bai Ruer seemed to see the scene from the past reappear. At this moment, the grievance, helplessness, despair, and other emotions in her heart could no longer be suppressed. Bai Ruer collapsed on the ground, holding her legs, and couldn't help crying. Why did you do this to me? Bai Ruer feels that the whole world has abandoned her, Zhao Lin doesn't want her anymore, and Chen Daojun doesn't want her anymore either. I insist on endless years, all for what? What am I left with? Bai Ruer was extremely desperate, and her crying became louder. The current Bai Ruer is like a stray deer, alone in the dark forest, full of helplessness and despair. At this moment, footsteps sounded again, and Chen Daojun slowly walked out from the void. Bai Ruer's crying stopped. She suddenly raised her head, and looked at Chen Daojun with disbelief in her eyes. Chen Daojun walked over slowly, gently picked her up from the ground, and said softly, the ground is cold. Bai Ruer's behavior has already told Chen Daojun the answer. After Chen Daojun picked up Bai Ruer, he sat on the next step again, and said with a smile on his face, since you can't make a choice, then I'll help you choose. After finishing speaking, he kissed Bai Ruer, who was in a daze. Bai Ruer's mind went blank for an instant, and her delicate body trembled slightly. But she didn't push Chen Daojun away, but a tangled look appeared in her eyes. But soon, this entanglement disappeared. Bai Ruer closed her eyes, and 2 tears fell from the corners of her eyes. 46%. Chapter 148 Married. The two kissed so selflessly. When they got to the back, Bai Ruer felt something enter the corner of her mouth, making her cheeks slightly rosy. It went on like this for a long time. The two finally let go. Bai Ruer's cheeks were rosy, and she didn't dare to look directly at Chen Daojun. Looking at the stunner in his arms, Chen Daojun smiled. It doesn't matter if you are a mortal emperor, you are still mine. Bai Ruer stretched out her hand, wrapped Chen Daojun's neck, and hugged each other tightly. Chen Dage, can you not leave me? She has spent countless years alone, but at that time she was all for Zhao Lin, and now Zhao Lin has abandoned her. She can no longer bear being alone. Chen Daojun took a deep breath, and hugged Bai Ruer tightly. Don't worry, I won't leave you. Suddenly, Chen Daojun seemed to think of something, and his expression became ugly again. Hiss. Bai Ruer can be said to be a pure love brain. If she finds out that she still has a few women, what will she do? Will he hack himself to death? Think quickly. Chen Daojun's expression was a little anxious. Bai Ruer definitely wanted to take him home. After all, Chen Daojun wanted him to lead the Chen family for the child he gave birth to. After hesitating for a while, Chen Daojun said hesitantly, Ruer, do you mind if you have a little sister or something? Ah, Bai Ruer raised her head, her eyes full of doubts. Little sister. But immediately her face became indifferent, and she ran out of Chen Daojun's arms. You mean you have other women? Damn, it turned out so fast. Chen Daojun also stood up quickly, and said anxiously, Ruer, listen to my arguments, things are not what you think. Bai Ruer stared at him viciously, with a bad tone, how much more? Chen Daojun raised his hand carefully, and stretched out a finger, just one. Lin Wanqing and the others were just maids, so they were not counted. Chen Daojun did not include them. Snort. Bai Ruer's face was full of anger. She turned her head away very unhappy. Her chest was also ups and downs, obviously her heart was very restless. But Chen Daojun breathed a sigh of relief. Anger is a normal reaction. If you don't get angry, something really happened. But although this Bai Ruer is an immortal emperor, her mind is similar to that of a little girl, and she is also a pure love brain. After falling into love, she is no different from an idiot. Chen Daojun took 2 steps forward and held it in his arms. Bai Ruer still wanted to struggle, but Chen Daojun immediately said, don't move. Hearing this, Bai Ruer stopped obediently immediately, and was hugged by Chen Daojun just like that. The two hugged each other for a while, before Chen Daojun said firmly, Ruer, you will be my woman from now on, no matter what the situation is, I will never abandon you. Such words may not have any effect on those mature women. But for a little girl like Bai Ruer, this kind of rhetoric was full of lethality, and she immediately put Chen Daojun and women's matters behind her. And these are not rhetoric, because they are what Chen Daojun really thinks in his heart. Bai Ruer has romantic ideas about love, and is firm and dedicated, willing to go through fire and water to give everything for love. Such a woman made Chen Daojun want to guard her for a lifetime. Feeling the deep love in Chen Daojun's tone, for some reason, Bai Ruer immediately felt an infinite sense of security in her heart. Obviously Chen Daojun's cultivation base is much weaker than her, but she is full of security. Bai Ruer buried her head in Chen Daojun's arms, her fair and flawless face was slightly rosy. The two lingered under the banyan tree for a while, and then walked towards Bai's house hand in hand. Bai Peng was coming back from finishing work outside, and he immediately saw the ambiguous behavior of the two of them. He didn't mind at all. Instead he ran up and said with a smile on his face. You guys are. Looking at the familiar face, Bai Ruer's eyes were in a daze, and she called softly, Father. In the previous life, Bai Peng was firmly defending her at the end. At that time, the entire Bai family was controlled by Zhou Yun, and Zhou Yun even used the resources of the Bai family to break through to the Golden Core stage faster than Bai Peng. If it wasn't for Bai Peng's desperate protection behind her, she might have been executed together with Zhao Lin. Bai Peng looked at Bai Ruer suspiciously. What's wrong? Bai Ruer smiled. It's okay. Without Zhao Lin, Bai Peng would be the closest person in the world to her. No, and Chen Daojun. Right now, Bai Ruer's heart is almost full of Chen Daojun, except for any other men. This is the brain of love. When you enter a relationship, you will devote yourself wholeheartedly, wishing to give him the best. Chen Daojun smiled and said, Patriarch Bai Ruer and I are getting married, I don't know you. It's good to be married. It's good to be married. It should be like this. It should be like this long ago. Bai Peng spoke first. His expression was full of excitement, as if he was the one who got married. During these years of getting along, he could see that Chen Daojun was sincere to Bai Ruer, and he was very powerful. Only by handing over Bai Ruer to him can Bai Peng be completely relieved. Chen Daojun and Bai Ruer looked at each other, and they smiled at each other. But since it's getting married, it must be in the celestial star realm, but I can only return once, and it will be extremely difficult to come back later. This is a bit tricky. Chen Daojun showed a thoughtful look, but soon his eyes lit up. Don't I still have an immortal emperor here? After returning to Bai's house, Chen Daojun pulled her into the yard, and Bai Ruer blushed, thinking that Chen Daojun was going to do something shameful. Ruer, do you have a way to find the world that existed before this thing? Chen Daojun took out a token, which was the token of the patriarch of the Chen family, and Bai Ruer was the immortal emperor. Maybe he could directly calculate karma and find the celestial star realm. Then he can go straight back. Bai Ruer glanced at him with some displeasure on her face, and then took the token. Is this the world before you? By the way, you haven't answered me yet. Why do you know that I turned around in this world? Chen Daojun said solemnly. Actually, I don't know, I just came by the way, but I found that you have the aura of Tao in your body, so I came here to get in touch with you. But in the process of getting in touch, I gradually found that I fell in love with you deeply, and I couldn't help myself. In the end, my heart was filled with you, and only. Okay. Bai Ruer quickly stopped her. Her cheeks were slightly rosy. No one had ever said such ambiguous words to her. Every word of Chen Daojun seemed to speak to her heart, making her feel itchy, feeling particularly wonderful. 46%. Chapter 149 Go Home. Seeing Bai Ruer's blushing face, Chen Daojun thought she was extremely cute. And Bai Ruer no longer paid attention to the matter of Chen Daojun finding her, treating it as a coincidence. For her, there was no need to pay attention to these matters. What matters to her is whether Chen Daojun loves her or not, nothing else matters. Bai Ruer took the token from Chen Daojun's hand, then froze slightly, but soon she frowned. She couldn't deduce any karma breath from this token, as if it didn't exist in this world at all. Bai Ruer looked at Chen Daojun again. The great aura surged in her body. She wanted to calculate Chen Daojun directly. But after trying several times, I found that I couldn't calculate it. Neither this token nor Chen Daojun seemed to exist in this world, without any karma aura on his body. Just like a blank sheet of paper. How is this going? Bai Ruer looked a little dignified. She is immortal emperor realm, even the entire heavens and worlds, she is the top powerhouse. In 10,000 realms, there are less than 10 people who have reached the immortal emperor, and each of them is a giant, a true overlord, who controls thousands of worlds. With one word, thousands of worlds can be destroyed. And after arriving at the immortal emperor, she conceived 10,000 ways. How could there be something she couldn't calculate? Chen Daojun frowned slightly. Before taking it out again, Zhongzhou got a Kuei Baoyu, can't calculate it. Then try this again. For Bai Ruer's inability to calculate herself, Chen Daojun had expected it long ago. After all, there is a system to cover it up, so it is impossible to find own. Think of the system as a cultivator that is set to be invincible. No matter who it is, it cannot be beaten by anyone. If this is the case, it is definitely impossible for Bai Ruer to find out. Bai Ruer took Baoyu, and her hands were warm and cool, feeling extremely comfortable. But soon he frowned again, still unable to deduce karma. Bai Ruer raised her head and looked at Chen Daojun with some seriousness. Even I, an immortal emperor, couldn't guess who he is. Can isolate immortal emperor's detection, unless the opponent is also immortal emperor. Could it be that Chen Dage is also an immortal emperor stronger than me? But Bai Ruer didn't think too much about it. Chen Daojun was very mysterious, but she believed that she would definitely not harm herself. Chen Daojun also guessed from her expression, but it seems impossible to guess. System, can you close that cover? Chen Daojun called out in his heart for a long time, but the system didn't respond at all. Sure enough, the system will only appear at certain times, and there will be no response at all at other times. Why are other people's systems so intelligent, but own systems are so mechanical? Is it because the level is too low? Thoughts kept popping up in Chen Daojun's mind. The only way now is to return directly to the celestial star realm, and then see if Bai Ruer can return to the Kanglan realm again. After thinking for a moment, Chen Daojun said with a serious expression. Ruer, I have a chance to go back. After I go back, you can see if you can communicate with the Kanglan realm and build a bridge between the two worlds. However, it is also possible that you will not be able to return to the Kanglan realm again. Ah, Bai Ruer was slightly taken aback, so evil. Can only go back once. As an immortal emperor, she had never encountered such a thing, but she felt relieved when she thought that she could not calculate Chen Daojun at all. Evil door, indeed some evil door. Bai Ruer nodded, and then raised her hand, leaving the power of Own Avenue on Bai Peng's body, which is also convenient for sensing in the future. If he can't come back, these powers of the Great Dao will protect Bai Peng for the rest of his life. Chen Daojun was going to take Bai Ruer back to the Celestial Star Realm directly, but just as he was about to take action, he immediately froze in place, showing a thoughtful look. Bai Ruer asked suspiciously, "What's wrong?" Chen Daojun frowned, and did not answer Bai Ruer's words. He kept thinking in his mind why the system would cover himself so that Bai Ruer could not detect karma. Is it because everyone can't detect themselves, or is Bai Ruer the only one who can't detect? Or is it impossible to detect non-persons? Chen Daojun turned his head to look at Bai Ruer. Should he make Bai Ruer his own first, and then try to see if he can detect the Celestial Star Realm? Looking at Chen Daojun's eyes, Bai Ruer always felt a little weird. What's the matter? Cough, cough, cough. Chen Daojun coughed a few times, then hugged Bai Ruer, kissed her on the lips, and said, "It's okay, let's go." At the next moment, the two disappeared immediately, and then the surrounding space surged. In just a moment, the figures of the two returned to clarity, and when they opened their eyes again, Chen Daojun had already returned to that familiar place. Celestial Star Realm, above Xuantian City. Bai Ruer glanced around, and then asked curiously, "Is this the world you are in?" Soon, Bai Ruer showed shock on her face. "Hey, how come there are so many strong people? There are a lot of true immortal mysterious immortals. Although these powerful people are nothing to her, this place is obviously the lower realm. The power of the Great Way is so weak that it cannot be the upper realm. There are so many strong people in a lower realm, which is too abnormal." Bai Ruer glanced at Chen Daojun, and immediately felt relieved. He is already so evil, and it is normal for the world he lives in to be evil. In fact, there are still many doubts about Chen Daojun, such as why she was able to cover up her detection. When she was in the Bai family, she could not detect at all. It's all very eccentric, but Bai Ruer doesn't care. She only cares whether Chen Daojun loves her or not. Other things don't matter at all. Star Realm, I'm back. Chen Daojun opened his hands, eyes full of joy. After staying in the Kanglan realm for so many years, I still have nostalgia for the Celestial Star Realm. After all, I am just a foreigner in the Kanglan realm. Chen Daojun said, "Ruer, try to see if you can detect the Kanglan realm." Bai Ruer nodded, then closed her eyes and began to investigate the power of Own Avenue. Soon, she opened her eyes again. But at this moment, her eyes seemed to contain the sun and moon star, as well as the infinite power of the avenue. Bai Ruer raised her hand, and a void corridor suddenly appeared in front of her. "I found it, Kanglan realm." Chen Daojun heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the words. He was worthy of being the immortal emperor, and he was completely unmatched by himself. He has absolutely no sense of the Kanglan realm, including the immemorial golden immortal that was released, and he is completely unable to sense it. Chen Daojun left a little induction device on them, but now the induction device has no response at all, obviously because the distance is too far. Chen Daojun said, "Let's keep this void bridge, so that we can go back later." Bai Ruer nodded obediently. She didn't hesitate at all about Chen Daojun's words. 46%. Chapter 150 Fire in the Backyard. A Taoist shadow flashed. "Meet the Patriarch." A heavenly feather guard appeared in front of Chen Daojun, saluting respectfully. Chen Daojun introduced with a smile. "Here, your mistress." Tian Yuwei immediately shouted respectfully, "Meet the mistress." Bai Ruer glared at Chen Daojun a little shyly. Although the expression looked like this, it was like eating honey in her heart, it was so sweet. Chen Daojun pulled Bai Ruer and walked towards the Chen family. The guards standing at the door were still the same guards from the Chen family back then. Now they are all indistinguishable Dao's cultivators, extremely powerful. Even though the Chen family no longer needed guards, they still guarded the door every day. Of course, the guards of the Chen family are not just the two of them. There are 6 people in total, and they are constantly changing shifts. Since the rise of the Chen family, nothing in the family has changed, only the specifications have changed. Meet the Patriarch. When the 2 guards saw Chen Daojun, They immediately saluted respectfully, and then saw the two holding hands. One of the guards rolled his eyes quickly, saluted again and said, "Meet the mistress." Bai Ruer nodded calmly on the surface, but in fact she was holding Chen Daojun's hand even tighter, which showed that her heart was not as calm as before. This kind of going home directly is actually similar to seeing your parents. From the previous communication, I learned that Chen Daojun is the head of the family, and Own is the mistress. Bai Ruer was a little flustered. How should she communicate with those juniors? What should other people do when they greet themselves? At this moment, thoughts raced through her mind. As the two of them walked into the Chen family, Chen Daojun immediately shouted loudly, "Everyone, come out to meet the second mistress of the Chen family." After all, Lu Ling was her first woman, and she treated her well, so she couldn't let her down. It's just that he came back so suddenly this time. Chen Daojun didn't know if Lu Ling would be unhappy because of it. A girl with icy muscles and bones came running from a distance. She had a pair of bright eyes, like a star, with a pure and flawless smile on her face. The head of the house. Chen Shuaner ran over from a distance, and threw herself into Chen Daojun's arms. Chen Daojun hugged Chen Shuaner, and said with a smile, "Hey, little Shuaner has grown up so much." The current Chen Shuaner is also over 8 years old. She already has the appearance of some beauties, and she looks extremely cute. Chen Daojun pinched Chen Shuaner's chubby cheeks. Her face was full of smiles. Chen Shuaner did not ignore Bai Ruer, who was at the side, and shouted crisply, "Shuaner pays her respects to the mistress." With a smile on her face, Bai Ruer stepped forward and pinched Chen Shuaner's cheek. This little girl is really cute. All the people practicing in the Chen family came here one after another, and at the same time, there were also those women who had married into the Chen family. Meet the patriarch. Everyone looked respectful. Then they looked at Bai Ruer again, and many people were slightly moved immediately. What a nice view. Bai Ruer's beauty is not that kind of pure beauty. Her beauty seems to be different from others. It does not exist in a world. Bai Ruer looked like a real Dixian. Her whole temperament was dusty, showing the aura of a fairy. Bai Ruer's beauty is more like a kind of lofty beauty, like a fairy god who reigns over the world. It can only be seen from a distance, not desecrated. Many people who married into the Chen family can be regarded as beauties outside. Even when facing Lu Ling, they can be calm and composed. But after seeing Bai Ruer, they actually felt ashamed, as if they were not on the same level as Bai Ruer. Meet the mistress. Many people immediately saluted Bai Ruer respectfully. Bai Ruer responded with a smile. She was flustered before, but after she calmed down a little, she calmed down. Anyway, it is also an immortal emperor. So many years, what kind of wind and waves have not seen it? The nervousness before was also because of Chen Daojun. It can be said that in this world, except for Chen Daojun and her only relative Bai Peng, no one else may be able to make her inner heart fluctuate at all. Chen Daojun is also in a very good mood. On the one hand, he has married the woman he loves, and she is also an immortal emperor. What else does the Chen family need to be afraid of? An immortal emperor. Among the world masters, they are all the top group of people. Even Chen Daojun felt that the immortal emperor should be the most powerful group of people in the heavens and worlds, and it is estimated that there is no stronger cultivator in the world. Even if there is, it is estimated that it is not strong enough. Immortal emperor, that's it. At this moment, a beautiful figure walked out from the inner courtyard. She was wearing a light green long dress, and she had a lively and clean temperament, just like a girl leading a home. This person is Lu Ling. Seeing a familiar person again, Lu Ling smiled. Husband. Chen Daojun had a smile on his face, but his heart was indeed trembling. Coming. Lu Ling then glanced at Bai Ruer, and couldn't help showing surprise in her eyes. Really beautiful. Bai Ruer's clothes were a little monotonous, but no matter where she stood, she felt ashamed. Lu Ling finally knew what Chen Daojun had been doing all these years. Looking for a woman. But Lu Ling didn't reject her in the slightest. She had always been unable to conceive a child, and she always blamed herself in her heart. Now that Chen Daojun brought another woman back, she might be able to bear children. Thinking of Chen Daojun having a child, Lu Ling also breathed a sigh of relief. Thinking of this, Lu Ling immediately walked towards Bai Ruer, holding her hand affectionately. My name is Lu Ling. What do I call it? Bai Ruer also showed a smile. Sister, my name is Bai Ruer. Elder sister. Chen Daojun's eyes showed a slight look of surprise. He didn't expect Bai Ruer to take the initiative to call sister Lu Ling. Isn't this equivalent to taking the initiative to give away the position of the boss? In fact, Bai Ruer has also figured it out. As long as she can be by Chen Daojun's side, as long as he still loves her, she can accept anything, even if there are other women by his side, she is willing to regress for it. Lu Ling was also slightly dazed. She could feel the extremely terrifying aura in Bai Ruer's body, although it was very faint, it felt extremely oppressive. It is impossible for such a person to have a lower cultivation base than her. But now she is calling her elder sister directly, which makes the smile on Lu Ling's face even bigger. In fact, Lu Ling didn't care who was older or who was younger, what she cared about was whether Chen Daojun valued her or not, even Lu Ling never thought of being Bai Ruer's sister. Lu Ling pulled Bai Ruer and said, "You just came to Xuantian City, let me take you for a stroll first, to get familiar with the situation." Bai Ruer nodded. Okay. Then the two walked together, wandering around Chen's house, then towards Juxiao Divine Dynasty, and then Xuantian City. Chen Daojun also heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this, as long as there was no fire in the backyard. 47%. Chapter 151 Ancient Thorn Tree, Treasure. He was deeply relieved by the attitudes of Bai Ruer and Lu Ling. It seems that I still worry too much. In fact, Lu Ling was all right. The only thing that worried him was Bai Ruer. She was a mortal emperor after all, marrying her would still be the second child. So Chen Daojun was very worried that Bai Ruer would not be able to accept this. There will be no conflicts between the two women, which also makes Chen Daojun feel better. The Chen family has also undergone some changes over the years, and the number of direct descendants has increased from 73 to 95. It seems that after having more daughters-in-law, some things cannot be controlled at all. The direct line of the Chen family has increased from more than 20 people at the beginning to more than 90 people now. This is the change. Chen Daojun hopes that there will be more and more direct descendants of the Chen family in the future. The heavens and myriad realms are very large, and if the Chen family wants to become a power at the overlord level, it is naturally impossible to just recruit so many people. Chen Daojun returned to his Qingxinyuan, and then walked towards the backyard. The branches of the tree of thorns are already extremely thick, and the root system below has surrounded the entire Chen family. But the changes in Qingxinyuan are still not big. Zhao Qing's appearance in normal times is still the same as before. Sensing Chen Daojun walking in, Zhao Qing's branch immediately stretched towards Chen Daojun. Chen Daojun smiled. Zhao Qing, long time no see. Over the years, Zhao Qing has also grown tremendously, especially after devouring that devil Dao cultivator, it is extremely rapid. The emerald green branch was wrapped around Chen Daojun's hand. Suddenly, a light shone on the branches, and a woman was born in an illusion. Her body was only covered by a few leaves, her eyes were green, her walls were flawless, and she had a charming cheek. She stretched out her arms to wrap around Chen Daojun's neck, pressed her own cheeks against his, and then rubbed them lightly. Her face was full of enjoyment. Zhao Qing was not born with wisdom, and there was still a dull feeling in the depths of her eyes. Doing these things is an act of intimacy made subconsciously and instinctively. But it's this closeness. Isn't it a bit too ambiguous? Chen Daojun's face was a little embarrassed, and he always felt that he was surrounded by women. But it's normal if you think about it carefully. If you stay with men every day, the problem will be even bigger. After Zhao Qing stuck with Chen Daojun for a while, she turned into spiritual qi and disappeared in place. Her body is the tree of thorns, and the appearance just now is just an illusion, not real. Chen Daojun doesn't know why the tree of thorns has the cultivation base, but it can't transform into a human form, and even the spiritual sense hasn't been born. It may also be because it is too heaven-defying, so the avenue restricts it a lot. It can only be explained in this way. Chen Daojun returned to the front yard, sat on the stone bench, looked at the familiar scene in front of him, and felt extremely comfortable in his heart. It's better here. Feel like home. Chen Daojun didn't stay for long. Lu Ling and Bai Ruer also came back arm in arm, and they looked very close, just like sisters. Lu Ling even found an excuse to leave, leaving time for the two of them to be alone. Chen Daojun looked at her leaving back and sighed in his heart. Lu Ling, what a woman. It is too sensible. But one thing to say, he actually doesn't mind the two of them being together. Bai Ruer looked around the yard with a look of surprise. Ancient thorn tree. Chen Daojun raised his eyebrows. The ancient tree of thorns really had a great origin, and it could even make an immortal emperor look surprised. Bai Ruer walked up to Chen Daojun, and asked curiously, Chen Dage, where did you get the ancient thorn tree? Chen Daojun didn't speak, but stood up, hugged Bai Ruer in his arms, and put her nose to nose. Picked up. Bai Ruer's face was slightly rosy. She lay obediently in Chen Daojun's arms, and put her arms around her neck. This ancient tree of thorns is a rare treasure in the heavens and myriad worlds. I think yours seems to be a god-level tree of thorns. A treasure. Chen Daojun's expression froze for a moment. Everyone who knew the tree of thorns before all showed expressions of horror, and the worst was panic. But Bai Ruer regarded it as a treasure. How to say? Bai Ruer looked puzzled. You don't even know about your tree of thorns. This ancient tree of thorns is divided into 3 levels, namely mortal level, immortal level, and god level. And they can devour any kind of energy and generate all kinds of power in their bodies. Just take your god-level ancient thorn tree. I guess it is the only one in the heavens. The god-level ancient tree of thorns can give birth to the power of 10,000 ways after ascension. If you reach the immortal venerable realm, you can directly refine and absorb it to prove the immortal emperor. Speaking of this, Bai Ruer's expression was extremely serious, so don't let this matter spread to the outside world, otherwise it will definitely arouse the covetousness of others. Chen Daojun also had a surprised expression on his face. He didn't expect the tree of thorns to have this ability. But he didn't really care about this. As for devouring Zhao King to break through the immortal emperor, this was not what he was looking for. Chen Daojun asked curiously, "Can't you stop it?" Bai Ruer immediately smiled and said, "Of course it can be stopped. Although this thing is helpful to immortal venerables, and can even advance great immortal emperor after being swallowed, it is only useful to immortal venerables. It's impossible for the immortal emperor to come and fight me for this thing. Besides, I didn't blow out the name of the ruthless great emperor. I am the immortal emperor who ranks high among the immortal emperors. Even if you face 2 immortal emperors at the same time, you can definitely not lose the wind." Chen Daojun raised his eyebrows. It's so powerful. After that, he directly hugged Bai Ruer, and then walked towards the house. In that case, let me see how powerful our ruthless great emperor is. Bai Ruer was taken aback for a moment, and then a blush appeared on that beautiful cheek. Chen Daojun carried Bai Ruer into the big bed in the room, and the two just looked at each other. This big bed is custom-made and can sleep 5 or 6 people at the same time. Originally, only 3 people could sleep, which was the limit, and it was still a bit crowded, but when Chen Daojun and Lu Ling were resting, Lin Wanqing also ran over from time to time. So Chen Daojun simply enlarged the bed a bit. Chen Daojun looked at Bai Ruer, and his breathing gradually became short of breath. Soon, the 2 lips pressed together tightly and kissed passionately. After one day, an incomparably powerful aura erupted instantly, and then enveloped the entire celestial star realm. Everyone looked in the direction of the burst of breath. Xuantian City. There again. The aura this time far surpassed any previous ones. Even when the Devil Dao invaded, the Devil Dao cultivator was still far inferior. 47%. Chapter 152 Birth of an Heir. This breath came quickly, but also went quickly. In Qingxin courtyard, Chen Daojun looked at the ruddy stunner in front of him. His eyes were full of joy. Unexpectedly, the help of an immortal emperor dual cultivation would be so great that she would directly break through the realm master realm and become the immortal king. Stimulate. Seeing that Chen Daojun didn't move, Bai Ruer immediately hooked Chen Daojun's neck, and their bodies were pressed together. Although Bai Ruer didn't say a word, the desire in her eyes has already expressed everything. Well, Chen Daojun looked at her in surprise. Bai Ruer felt extremely shy in her heart. She quickly turned her head away, not daring to look directly into Chen Daojun's eyes. Then it went on for 3 more days. Chen Daojun was lying on the bed, looking at the sky, and he was holding a soft and delicate body in his arms. It has to be said that the physical quality of this cultivator is strong. 4 days. 4 full days. If it were an ordinary person, he would have gone straight to see King Yama, but now Chen Daojun still feels extremely energetic. Even more energetic. The help of the dual cultivation with Bai Ruer was really great. In 3 days, he even directly broke through to the Immortal King middle stage. Originally, to break through to such a realm, one needs to have some understanding of the Tao. But during the process of dual cultivation, Bai Ruer was able to directly instill her own understanding of the Tao into him, allowing him to directly break through. Bai Ruer is an immortal emperor, and she has a certain understanding of Wan Dao. It is not too easy to make an immortal king break through. Chen Daojun finally understands the fun of being a rich woman. Simply wonderful. This is the life of time travel. Occasionally going out for fun, making out with a group of beautiful beauties and wives every day, isn't that better than going out to fight every day? Bai Ruer clung to Chen Daojun tightly, her face full of enjoyment. Chen Daojun closed his eyes, quietly feeling Bai Ruer's abdomen. The pre-heavenly embryo in his body did produce a change, and a little breath of life sprouted in it. Really successful. Really conceived in such a short time. Chen Daojun's face was full of excitement. Bai Ruer blushed and raised her head. Chen Dage, what's wrong? Chen Daojun's expression turned serious. My husband. Bai Ruer was a little shy, but still shouted, husband. A smile appeared on Chen Daojun's face, then he turned over and pressed Bai Ruer underneath. 2 days later, Chen Daojun and Bai Ruer were sitting in the backyard, feeling the breath of life in Bai Ruer's belly getting stronger and stronger. Chen Daojun was very happy. Bai Ruer asked curiously, do you really want a child? Chen Daojun nodded, and Bai Ruer didn't speak anymore, just smiling. No matter what Chen Daojun needs, Bai Ruer will meet it, and this heavenly Dao embryo was originally prepared for Zhao Lin. This heavenly Dao has a lot of embryonic functions, and it took her a lot of time to condense it. It was originally planned to be given to Zhao Lin after it was fully formed. This heavenly Dao embryo contains her many understandings. Although it is very shallow, it is enough for Zhao Lin to directly step into the immortal king realm. It's a pity that there was an accident later. But Bai Ruer was a little bit looking forward to it. She touched her belly. The child born with her husband, plus my concubine heavenly Dao embryo, should be the top genius at birth, right? In 10,000 realms, there is no immortal emperor who has yet condensed the heavenly Dao embryo, just to give birth to offspring. Moreover, this thing is extremely rare, and it would take time to condense the immortal emperor first, not to mention the cultivators of the immortal venerable realm. Chen Daojun placed all the top-quality Lingqi springs drawn out over the years over the Chen family. In an instant, the immortal qi in the entire Chen family became extremely rich. Chen Daojun took out those heavenly and mortal treasures that were interested in cultivation and placed them beside Bai Ruer. Bai Ruer looked at his serious expression, and couldn't help but chuckled. It doesn't have to be like this. The environment in Chen's family is very good, plus I was a heavenly Dao embryo first, and the child was conceived and born in the Dao embryo. The embryo is his best nutrient. Chen Daojun nodded solemnly, and there was indeed some truth in what he said. Bai Ruer is the immortal emperor realm, and she condensed the heavenly Dao embryo first, own heavenly and mortal treasures. No matter how good it is impossible to be better than the heavenly Dao embryo first. Chen Daojun put those things away with some embarrassment. Any of these heavenly and mortal treasures can cause a sensation in the entire celestial star realm, but now he despises them extremely. Our own realm is too low, and the system level is also very low, so the things drawn out are not very good. Chen Daojun said, Ruer, if you have any needs, just ask me directly, and I will do my best to satisfy you. Bai Ruer nodded with a smile. Suddenly, the thorny tree in Qingxin courtyard began to shake, and a branch slowly floated down from it, and then stretched towards Bai Ruer. At the same time, a bright red fruit was condensed, which contained huge energy and contained the power of many laws. Chen Daojun was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect the tree of thorns to have this function. Bai Ruer smiled. She picked the fruit and ate it mouthful. Although the quality of this fruit is mediocre, it contains the nutrients needed for the heavenly Dao embryo, which can be regarded as a little help. After all, this tree of thorns is only at the peak level of mysterious immortal. If it can become the world master level, the help will definitely be greater. Chen Daojun's eyes flickered. He took out all the heavenly and mortal treasures before, and then threw them into the pool behind. As soon as these heavenly and mortal treasures entered the pool, they immediately turned into incomparably pure energy. The thorn tree's breakthrough is very fast, and there is no obstacle. As long as it can provide her with enough energy, she can make a breakthrough quickly. It should take 10 or 8 years for the immortal emperor to give birth to an heir. During this time, he can properly upgrade the tree of thorns. I learned from Lu Ling before that it takes about 3 to 5 years for the Tianling Lu clan to give birth to an heir, and the time required for a mortal emperor will only be longer, not less. Because of the addition of Bai Ruer, Chen Daojun doubled the size of the entire Qingxinyuan. He didn't want to ignore either Lu Ling or Bai Ruer, but Qingxinyuan is so big, should one person live in it? Of course this is not acceptable. So Chen Daojun expanded the size of Qingxinyuan, so that both of them can live here, and they can be as tired as they like on weekdays. The 3 of them were the only ones who could enter and leave Qingxinyuan at will, plus Lin Wanqing, the 4 maids. No one else could enter without Chen Daojun's permission. In recent years, the entire Chen family has also expanded considerably, almost tripling in size. After all, the current Chen family is different from the previous Chen family. There are many Chen family members now. If it is still the same as before, it will be too crowded. 47%. Chapter 152 Three Trees of Thorns. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years have passed. In the past 2 years, the life in Bai Ruer's womb has also become more and more active. What surprised Chen Daojun the most was that they were twins. At the beginning, the life was relatively weak, so Chen Daojun didn't notice it, and it took about half a year to feel it. In 2 years, Chen Daojun also broke through to the peak of Immortal King, only one step away from Immortal Monarch realm. The lucky draw is successful. Congratulations for getting 3 trees of thorns. The lucky draw is successful. Congratulations on getting 5 Immortal King early stage summoned characters. The lucky draw is successful. Congratulations on getting 3 God level spirit pool springs. Seeing the prize he won, Chen Daojun sat up abruptly, his eyes full of surprise. Tree of Thorns. I finally got it again. The Tree of Thorns drawn this time is no different from the one drawn before, but Chen Daojun can still feel that the Tree of Thorns drawn from his system is still the same as the God-level Ancient Tree of Thorns that Bai Ruer mentioned. Different. That God-level Ancient Tree of Thorns has a growth limit. Even if it is the limit, it can at most Immortal Venerable Realm. But the Tree of Thorns drawn by Own can grow without limit, and it can even grow to Immortal Emperor Realm in the future. If these 3 trees of thorns were lifted up, it would be of great help to the Chen family. According to Bai Ruer, the thing that Zhao King condensed before seemed to be called the fruit of 10,000 ways, which contained the power of 10,000 ways. For the powerhouse of the world master level, the benefits are endless. If the Tree of Thorns is promoted to Immortal Venerable, or even Immortal Emperor realm, then their Chen family might be able to mass produce Immortal Emperor. When the time comes, the Chen family will have the final say on all the heavens and worlds. And he also has a spiritual pool spring, which can continuously provide the Tree of Thorns with cultivation energy. Thinking of this, Chen Daojun planted 3 thorn trees in every corner of Qingxinyuan. As soon as the Tree of Thorns fell down, its branches began to grow continuously, and the momentum on its body also climbed crazily. Qingxin Temple is full of immortal qi, which is a very good nutrient for the Tree of Thorns. The 3 thorn trees grew extremely fast, and soon climbed to the transcend tribulation stage, but the immortal qi in the entire Qingxinyuan did not weaken in the slightest. Chen Daojun took out 3 more god-level spirit pool springs. In an instant, an incomparably rich divine power rushed to his face. After reaching the level of the World Lord, the immortal power will be transformed into divine power, and this god-level spiritual pool spring is specially designed to give birth to divine power. A God-level spiritual pool spring can almost match hundreds of thousands of top-quality spiritual pool springs, and the effect is simply not very good. Below the entire Qingxinyuan, Chen Daojun specially opened up a small space. This small space is like a minor world. He put all the God-level spirit pool springs he drew in it, and the roots of the thorn tree are all in that minor world. This minor world also spilled part of the divine partition's power to improve the outside world. The Tree of Thorns is very important, but you can't give them all the springs of the Lingqi. Not far away, Bai Ruer's stomach bulged slightly. She sat on a soft chair and looked at Chen Daojun in amazement, her eyes full of shock. 3 ancient god-level thorn trees. This. What is the origin of my husband? Things like ancient thorn trees came into being. Even the immortal emperor couldn't create them, so why does my husband have so many? Moreover, Bai Ruer could sense that the old thorny tree in the backyard had no wisdom, and this was what puzzled her the most. He has no wisdom, but he is extremely loyal to Chen Daojun. This kind of incomparable purity of loyalty, Bai Ruer has survived for so many years, and she has never heard of such a thing. She remembered that it was obviously impossible for the ancient thorn trees to recognize their masters. They were like a machine, and they would only devour any energy they saw. But in Chen Daojun's place, he became extremely obedient. Eccentric. In the past 2 years, she discovered that there are many strange things about Chen Daojun. You can summon many cultivators at your fingertips. The key is that she, an immortal emperor, didn't realize where these cultivators came from. However, although Bai Ruer was extremely puzzled, she never asked. If Chen Daojun wanted to talk, she didn't need to ask. And from Bai Ruer's point of view, Chen Daojun's reluctance to speak must have his own reasons. Suddenly, the sky and the earth shook, and a huge fairy gate emerged. Tianmin, this is someone who broke through the immortal rank and is about to ascend. Look, it seems to be coming from Jushaoyu. Countless people exclaimed. This is the first cultivator to ascend since nearly 10,000 years. The gate of heaven opened slowly, and a Taoist figure slowly floated in the sky. Chen Jin. In fact, the conditions for breaking through to the immortal rank are fully met in the lower realm, but Chen Jin still wants to see the wider world. The celestial star realm is really too small. He wants to see the elegance of the upper realm. Everyone in the Chen family was watching with burning eyes. Many people of the younger generation are a little emotional. In the past, their cultivation base was relatively weak, and the celestial star realm was acceptable to them. But the current descendants of the Chen family, like Chen Shang and the others, are not the strongest in the celestial star realm. It doesn't make any sense to stay here any longer. Chen Daojun was smiling, but he didn't stop them. They were all eagles soaring in the sky, and the celestial star realm really couldn't accommodate them. Huang Hechan, you secretly protect. If there is no life crisis, don't help. Huang Hechan was an immortal king-level powerhouse he had drawn during this time. With his protection, Chen Jin should not have had an accident. Huang Hechan's voice sounded, obey. Boom boom boom. A huge bell rang, and the huge gate of heaven slowly opened. Chen Jin turned to look at Xuantian City, then raised his hand and saluted. The next moment, he turned around and entered the Tianmen. Just when everyone thought the matter was about to end, a gate of heaven appeared again in the world, and Chen Shang soared into the sky. Then came Chen Kui, Chen Xuan, Chen Yuan and the others from the beginning of the Chen family. There were nearly 10 people in total, all of whom chose ascension. Heavenly gates emerged one after another, making people dumbfounded. Those people in the celestial star realm have never heard of such a scene, so many people can be ascended at one time. It takes a lot of resources for a person to reach the threshold of ascension. Generally, it takes about 10,000 years on average to have an ascensionist. But the celestial star realm didn't know what happened these years, and the ascension person didn't show up for 10,000 years. But now there are so many at one time. Is this a collection of those who did not ascend in the previous 10,000 years? Chen Yi's eyes flickered. She also wanted to go to the upper realm and let the Ziyuan Chamber of Commerce spread all over the heavens and worlds. How exciting it would be if the Ziyuan Chamber of Commerce could be seen in every world. But the name Ziyuan Chamber of Commerce is a bit too common. Chen Yi showed a thoughtful look. It seems that the name needs to be changed. She thought for a long time, and finally settled on a name. Wanbao Pavilion, 48%. Chapter 153 Zui Immortal Monarch. After Chen Yi thought it over, the Ziyuan Chamber of Commerce in the entire star realm changed their brands. It is now called Wanbao Pavilion. At the beginning, she did not expect that the Ziyuan Chamber of Commerce could develop to such an extent, so the names obtained were relatively common and not particularly exaggerated. But now it doesn't work. This kind of name appeared in the upper realm, and it seemed a bit low level. Chen Daojun looked at those who left, and felt a little sigh in his heart. When Bai Ruer was born, he should go to the upper world to play. In the past 2 years, Lu Ling also mentioned twice that he wanted to go back and have a look, but he couldn't leave now, so Lu Ling didn't bother to run away. After all, Bai Ruer is still pregnant, so he still hopes to go out less. Chen Daojun walked towards the place where Lu Ling lived. His room is very different. There is a big pool in the middle, which is filled with fairy liquid. And Lu Ling was practicing in it. Now she has broken through to the peak of true immortal. Compared to Chen Daojun's speed, it is already extremely slow. Lu Ling opened her eyes. She slowly walked out of the liquid, and then asked with a smile. Husband, what's the matter? Chen Daojun smiled. It's okay, I just come to accompany you and chat with you. While speaking, Chen Daojun picked up Lu Ling and walked towards the second floor. Although Bai Ruer was pregnant, Lu Ling still wanted her to conceive together, which was only fair. After all, Lu Ling is also an own woman, and it is not fair for her to have no children. Upper bound. Zui Immortal Domain. A magnificent great hall stands between countless star pavilions. This is the base camp of Zui Immortal Domain, where an immortal monarch-level world master powerhouse lives. Just as everyone in the celestial star realm ascended, a majestic man in the great hall suddenly opened his eyes. The celestial star realm. Just a moment ago, he noticed the aura of a strong person in a world controlled by his subordinates. A powerhouse at the lord level. The man's eyes were full of coldness, and he understood a common sense in the heavens and worlds, that the world master level powerhouse should not enter other people's territories at will. And that breath is obviously a stranger, not the master of Zui Immortal Domain. The title of world master is not groundless. To become an immortal king realm, it is generally very difficult to rely on oneself. Most people break through by devouring the world, and then refining the power of 10,000 ways in it to break through the immortal king. This is the title of World Lord. Because every world contains thousands of principles, refining the power of the world to break through the immortal king is the easiest way to succeed. Zwei immortal monarch snorted coldly, his eyes were full of murderous intent, and his figure disappeared instantly. When it reappeared, it had already arrived outside the celestial star realm. Zwei immortal monarch's eyes suddenly became serious. The world in front of him was unexpectedly powerful, and the power of laws in it was much stronger than some worlds in the upper realm. How is this going? Zwei immortal monarch narrowed her eyes. No matter what, he had to investigate clearly. Zwei's immortal domain is his own domain, and he does not allow other world masters to go to his own domain to mess around. At the next moment, his figure appeared in the celestial star realm, and the rich spiritual chi inside made him raise his eyebrows again. The spiritual chi in this world also contains traces of immortal chi. How is this going? Why is immortal chi born in the lower realm? Zwei immortal monarch's eyes were full of doubts, and there was not only one immortal king here, but more than 30 people. What exactly is going on? When did Zwei immortal domain enter so many immortal kings, but he didn't notice it? Zwei immortal monarch's complexion became extremely ugly, and he felt a little bad in his heart. Generally, such things happened, indicating that there were other strong people who intended to swallow Zwei immortal domain, otherwise it would be impossible to do such a thing. With a wave of his hand, the space in front of him surged, and a middle-aged man appeared in front of him. The middle-aged man looked at Zwei immortal monarch with serious eyes. He couldn't move at all, and his whole body was trapped in a strange space, unable to perceive everything outside. This person is an immortal king-level powerhouse summoned by Chen Daojun, named Wang Haiken. Zwei immortal emperor coldly said, "Who are you? Why did you come to my Zwei immortal domain?" Facing Zwei immortal emperor's inquiry, Wang Haiken said without hesitation, "My lord, Wang Haiken, is originally from the celestial star realm. Whether it is true or not, the immortal monarch will find out if it is true." Zwei immortal monarch narrowed her eyes suddenly. "You know me," Wang Haiken said calmly, "of course." Zwei immortal monarch stared at Wang Haiken. He really only had the aura of Zwei immortal domain in his body, not the aura of other immortal domains. Could it really be the immortal king of their immortal domain? But why are you bunch of immortal kings gathered in the celestial star realm? The point is, he knows every immortal king breakthrough in Zwei immortal domain, but this immortal king of celestial star realm, he has not noticed at all. Zwei immortal monarch said in a cold tone, "You are very courageous. Do you think that you can deceive the world by doing this? Do you underestimate this immortal monarch too much?" He didn't believe Wang Haiken was from Zwei immortal domain at all. The power in Zwei immortal monarch's body circulated, and the space suddenly began to squeeze, and Wang Haiken immediately showed a painful expression on his face. "Say, who are you? Otherwise this immortal monarch will kill you today." Wang Haiken didn't say anything, just looked at Zwei immortal monarch like this. Zwei immortal monarch's eyes were full of murderous intent, and the sudden appearance of so many immortal kings made him extremely annoyed. "Say it," Wang Haiken said helplessly. "I've said everything I should say, and I have nothing else to say." Zwei immortal monarch took a deep breath. "If this is the case, then you will die." After saying that, he wanted to crush Wang Haiken to death, but before he could take any action, a voice rang out from his ears. "Immortal monarch, he is mine, please release him first." Zwei immortal monarch immediately turned his head away, and Chen Daojun slowly walked out of the void, his expression extremely indifferent. The peak of immortal king. Zwei immortal monarch's eyes are full of solemnity. Such a strong person, even if he is the second in command in the entire Zwei immortal domain, but he has not noticed at all when the other party entered the Zwei immortal domain. Zwei immortal monarch coldly said, "Who are you? Why did you enter my Zwei immortal domain?" Chen Daojun said flatly, "I am from Zwei immortal domain." Zwei immortal monarch was furious. He always felt that the two people in front of him were playing tricks on him. Breaking through Immortal King was a huge movement, it was impossible for him not to know. So these immortal kings in the celestial realm can only come from other immortal domains. Zwei immortal monarch is too lazy to talk nonsense. How dare you play with this immortal monarch, you want to die. Powerful divine power erupted from his body, killing Chen Daojun. Although there is only a thin line between immortal king and immortal monarch, the gap is huge. In front of Zwei immortal monarch, Chen Daojun feels extremely small. But Chen Daojun didn't move at all. Suddenly, a terrifying suffocating breath erupted, and Zui Immortal Monarch was directly imprisoned in place. A figure in white clothes slowly appeared, and she said in a cold tone. Want to die, 48%. Chapter 154 Departure, Upper Realm. Do you want to die? The person who came was dressed in white, and his face was covered by a cloud of white mist, so he couldn't see his face clearly, but just by looking at his graceful figure, he knew that his appearance must be extraordinary. Of course, what shocked Zui Immortal Monarch the most was not his figure, but his inability to detect the person's appearance at all. That white mist isolated everything, even Immortal Monarch couldn't see through it. Who is this person? Zui Immortal Monarch felt tense as he was facing a formidable enemy. In his guess, this person should be the big shot behind this group of immortal kings. Zui Immortal Monarch was also unwilling to fight against a strong man, so he said in a solemn tone, Fellow Taoist, this Zui Immortal domain is my domain, and you came here without saying a word. I'm afraid it's not in compliance with the rules. Bar. Is it against the rules? Bai Ruer's tone was cold. She raised her hand to grab Zui Immortal Monarch. In an instant, Zui Immortal Monarch's eyes went dark, and he seemed to be in a dark space, surrounded by dead silence. The endless darkness instantly startled him, his scalp was numb, his body was getting goosebumps, and the threat of death flooded into his mind. At this moment, Zui Immortal Monarch felt like an ant, small and helpless. What kind of power is this? Immortal Venerable, or Immortal Emperor? Zui Immortal Monarch was shocked. No wonder he couldn't find out that it turned out to be a strong man above him. What to do? At such a cultivation base, first stage realm first stage day, an Immortal Venerable can never be its opponent. As for the Immortal Emperor, it is even more unimaginable. These powerhouses have not been born for many years, and each of them is practicing in meditation, wandering in the heavens and worlds. Zui Immortal Monarch's eyes showed fear, and the dead silence around him made him feel as if he was going to die soon. No, he felt like he was dead now, which made him a little creepy. The key is that he couldn't say a word, and his whole body was filled with a sense of oppression that he couldn't stop. It's over. Zui Immortal Monarch feels extremely regretful now. If he had known himself earlier, he would have been more polite, and if he didn't come up, he would arrest others and question him. Okay, Ruer, this is someone else's territory after all. Chen Daojun's voice sounded. Bai Ruer immediately withdrew her own breath, and stood beside Chen Daojun obediently. After Zui Immortal Monarch recovered, he did not run away, but hurriedly saluted and said, I have seen you, Xiaoshan to have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai, please forgive me for disturbing you. Breaking away from that dead space, Zui Immortal Monarch was relieved, as if he had walked through the gate of hell, and his back was covered with cold sweat. This sense of oppression is really too strong. Certainly only the Immortal Venerable might be possible. What shocked Zui Immortal Monarch the most was the young man beside the woman. Who can make an Immortal Venerable so obedient, and it can only be the Immortal Emperor who transcends sentient beings. Thinking of offending an Immortal Emperor, Zui Immortal Monarch felt his heart shudder. But fortunately, the other party seemed to have a milder attitude, which made him a little relieved. Chen Daojun also looked at the person in front of him curiously. Zui Immortal Monarch, this is the leader of Zui Immortal Domain, a real overlord. This is the information he got from the human organization. Actually, it's not a big deal. The Star Realm is already in Zui's Immortal Domain, and it also belongs to your domain. Immortal Monarch can come if you want. Chen Daojun said kindly. When Zui Immortal Monarch heard this, his heart eased a lot, and he was not as scared as before. Chen Daojun said again. But Immortal Monarch should be more careful next time, don't come up and arrest my people. Zui Immortal Monarch was shocked, and hurriedly saluted. What the adults said is true, the villain did something wrong. Chen Daojun didn't bother to say any more. He turned around and left with Bai Ruer, and he didn't bother to talk to Zui Immortal Monarch, as long as he didn't directly arrest people next time. This time is just a lesson, but next time it will not be so simple. After Chen Daojun and the others left, Zui Immortal Monarch completely relaxed. Immortal Venerable. FK, it's off the charts. How could such a big guy go to the lower realm, and he was so low-key, people who didn't know thought they were coming to steal his house. But even if this kind of person really wants to tease him, he probably doesn't have the power to resist. But judging from the current situation, everything seems to be quite good, at least this lord didn't care too much about himself. Immortal Venerable. Who is it? Among the heavens and worlds, the Immortal Emperor is not present, and the Immortal Venerable is already the top powerhouse. Zui Immortal Monarch shook his head. Such a strong person cannot be guessed by himself, and he should try not to come to the Star Realm in the future, so as not to make this adult unhappy. On the way back to Xuantian City, Chen Daojun said with some seriousness, Ruer, are you sure there will be no problem? Bai Ruer smiled, and everything in the world seemed to lose their color. Husband, why don't you just go out for a walk? Although I'm pregnant, I'm not as weak as a mortal woman. As long as I don't fight the immortal emperor, basically it won't affect the fetus in my womb. Chen Daojun showed a hesitant expression when he heard the words. He was planning to wait for Bai Ruer to give birth to a child before setting off for the upper world, but just now Bai Ruer took the initiative to mention going to the upper world for fun. After thinking for a moment, Chen Daojun nodded. Since that's the case, let's choose a day to hit the sun, go back and pack up and go. After returning to Qingxinyuan, Chen Daojun went to inform Lu Ling, but Lu Ling was not so happy about all this, but seemed a little calm. At first, she really wanted to go home and see her parents, but she was also affected by Bai Ruer during the time they got along. Gradually, the eyes are full of Chen Daojun. Bai Ruer's love is not selfish, it's not because she thinks it's good, so she keeps giving it to Chen Daojun. On the contrary, Bai Ruer is very careful, she thinks a lot about Chen Daojun's affairs, cares about a lot more details than Lu Ling, and basically thinks about him from Chen Daojun's perspective. So during this time, Lu Ling was thinking about how to do better, so she didn't really want to go home. But both of them had to go to the upper realm for a stroll, so Lu Ling naturally had to accompany Chen Daojun. Lu Ling and Bai Ruer both changed their clothes, and there was a big gap between their temperaments. Lu Ling is more mature, with an enchanting figure and extremely charming. But Bai Ruer is different, she looks exactly like a young woman, with a queen's sense of sight from time to time, and her temperament switches quickly. It didn't take long for the three of them to head towards the upper realm. With a wave of Chen Daojun's hand, a void was suddenly torn apart. As a powerhouse at the level of a world lord, it is naturally extremely easy to enter and exit the upper and lower worlds. Upper realm, here we come. 48%. Chapter 155 Wandao Immortal Dynasty. Upper bound. Wandao Immortal Dynasty. Here is no longer the tranquility of the past, but a little more solemn and solemn. Almost every city in the Immortal Dynasty looked like it was ready for battle. The walls were full of soldiers, and each one was a cultivator of the immortal level. But the faces of these soldiers were full of panic and confusion. Wanxi City. In Pingtian Hall, a strong man stood among them, chatting in a low voice from time to time, and the voice of whispering sounded in the great hall. And at the top, a middle-aged man in silver armor sat on a chair, his eyes full of seriousness. He is the emperor of this Wandao Immortal Dynasty. Many human races in the mortal world believed in dragons, and those emperors engraved dragons on their clothes, but in cultivation world, the dragon race is the enemy of the human race, so it is naturally impossible for emperors to wear dragon robes. Without the dragon robes, there would be no dragon chairs. Yang Zan looked at the chattering people below, helplessness flashed in his eyes, he sighed and said, Everyone, have you thought of a countermeasure? The thick voice echoed in the great hall, the whispering stopped abruptly, and everyone turned their heads to look at Yang Zan. The great hall suddenly fell into silence, everyone looked at me and I looked at your expressions. At this moment, the lord of Yongle City stood up and said, I have seen my king, this Lingquing Immortal Dynasty joined forces with Devil Dao and Yaozu to attack us, can we ask Lord Mao to take action? City Master Yongle, can you use your brain first before saying this? Mr. Mao is a strong man at the level of a world lord, can he take care of our mess? A city lord immediately had a sarcasm in his tone. He didn't want to talk at first, but the city lord of Yongle is really nonsense. The face of Yongle City Lord turned red, but he couldn't think of a rebuttal for a while, so he could only say, Okay, then you are smart, can you give me a plan? Alright, Yang Zan's tone was a little impatient. In Zui Immortal Domain, people from the Immortal Monarch Mansion will not intervene in the battles between our major forces. Letting Lord Mao take action is tantamount to fantasy. Is there any other way for you? Hearing this sentence, everyone in the Great Hall looked at each other again, but no one spoke. Seeing this scene, Yang Zan couldn't help sighing in his heart. Lingquing Immortal Dynasty was originally their vassal force, and there was only one true immortal level powerhouse under their command, which was far from their Wandao Immortal Dynasty. But since 3 years ago, this Lingquing Immortal Dynasty has joined forces with Devil Dao and Yaozu to attack their Wandao Immortal Dynasty together. In the past 3 years, the number of true immortal powerhouses dispatched alone was more than 3 times that of their Wandao immortal dynasty. Such a disparity in strength also made Yongzhan feel a little helpless. This Wandao immortal dynasty was established by him alone, and it took hundreds of 10,000 years. It has developed to this day, and there are too many things that are hard to let go. Moreover, he can also obtain huge benefits from Wandao immortal dynasty. If it is not necessary, he really does not want to give up. At this time, one of the city lords spoke again and said, "My king, why don't we ask Baguio immortal dynasty for help?" As soon as this statement came out, it was immediately opposed. "No way, the Baguio immortal dynasty has always been eyeing my Wandao immortal dynasty. Let's ask them to help. Wouldn't that be seeking skin from a tiger? When the Lingqiang dynasty is defeated, they may take this opportunity to kill my Wandao immortal dynasty was annexed as well. That's right, Baguio immortal dynasty is stronger than me, and the risk of asking him for help is too great. Then what should we do? The Lingqiang immortal dynasty and the others are powerful, and it is impossible for us to be enemies with them alone." The great hall suddenly fell into silence. Indeed, this is an unsolvable situation. The forces of Lingqiang immortal dynasty are too powerful, they can't resist at all, and asking others for help is also very risky. After all, let others help you. If you don't pay a price, how can you do it? In the upper realm, there are also cannibals. If you don't pay attention, you will be lost forever. Yongzhan also sighed helplessly, a gloomy look flashed in his eyes. Over the years, Wandao immortal dynasty has been growing, and there are more and more true immortal cultivators. He is about to reach the level of mysterious immortal, and then the entire immortal dynasty will be able to reach a higher level. As a result, this kind of thing suddenly appeared. Without the resource supply of Wandao immortal dynasty, the time for him to break through the mysterious immortal would have to be extended for a long time. Yongzhan looked in the direction of the Tianling Lu clan, and asked softly, "Patriarch Lu Mu, do you have any countermeasures for the Tianling Lu clan?" Everyone in the Great Hall immediately looked at Lu Mu, their eyes full of hope. Everyone present, they don't want Wandao immortal dynasty to fall, because they are all winners. Moreover, the people here are almost all the city lords, and they also have their own small forces. If Wandao immortal dynasty falls, they will surely fall with them. They all feel a little uncomfortable when they think that the city they have worked so hard to maintain will be destroyed. Lu Mu sighed. "My lord, my Tianlingliu clan broke with the Yao clan. Those former friends naturally regard us as mortal enemies. I'm afraid they can't help much." Yongzhan sighed and glanced around, but no one continued to make a sound. At this time, he knew that Wandao immortal dynasty might really be over. Right now he has reached the end of his rope, and he is no longer able to resist Lingqiang immortal dynasty. There is only one way in front of him, and that is to disband the entire Wandao immortal dynasty, and then let them escape by themselves. Only in this way can the outbreak of war be avoided. And those people in Wandao immortal dynasty will not have any accidents. Although the immortal monarch house will not care about the battles between the major forces, it clearly stated that it is not allowed to massacre cultivators, and it also particularly emphasized the Devil Dao forces. Even if Lingqiang immortal dynasty had 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to kill Wandao immortal dynasty cultivator. Unless they don't want to live anymore. Although I was very reluctant in my heart, there was no other way right now. In the Great Hall, everyone sighed, with a very helpless expression. This Lingqiang immortal dynasty is in company with the Devil Dao monster clan, and sooner or later he will kill himself. They just attacked a few days ago, and it is estimated that they will attack again during this period of time. In the last attack, City Lord Pingshuan has already fallen, so who will fall this time? Why? Yongzhan also shook his head, and immediately prepared to announce the end of the scattered immortal dynasty. There is no point in continuing to resist. If you are decisive, there is still a chance to turn around in the future. Everyone, Wandao immortal dynasty is about to fall, everyone wants to leave. My king, I have a solution. Suddenly, a surprised voice sounded in the Great Hall, and everyone looked towards the speaker in search of the sound. Tianling Lu clan, Lu Ping. At this moment, Lu Ping's face was full of joy, and just now he sensed a familiar breath of bloodline. It's Linger. She has come to the upper world. Linger is married to that strong man. With the help of her husband, would we Wandao immortal dynasty still be afraid of him? 48%. Chapter 156 Lingqiang immortal dynasty. There is a way. This joyful voice echoed in the great hall. Lu Mu said with serious eyes. Lu Ping, don't speak nonsense, this matter is not a joke. Obviously, he didn't think Lu Ping could save Wan Dao Immortal Dynasty. As a member of the same clan, he is very clear about who Lu Ping is. Cultivation talent is average, with a good personality and not stupid, but he thinks it is impossible to solve the current problem. No problem, Liu Ping Elder can speak freely. Right now, we are at the end of our rope. We have to refer to any method. What if there is a solution? At this point, even if it is a ridiculous solution, they are willing to listen. Because before their eyes, there is only this ending. Yang Zan swallowed what he said just now, and asked. Lu Elder can tell you how to do it. His eyes are also full of doubts. Lu Mu, as the head of the clan, is a problem that even he can't solve. How can you, a little elder, solve this predicament? Although Yang Zan didn't have any hope, in the current situation, even if there was a slight way out, he would not give up. Everyone in the Great Hall immediately pricked up their ears and listened. Lu Ping said with a serious expression, My lord, the little girl's name is Lu Ling. Everyone should have heard that she sneaked out of the clan land and went to the lower realm because of some things. I went to her a few years ago, and the little girl is now married to a strong man. The Lord of Yongle suddenly interrupted, his tone a little impatient. Lu Ping Elder, can you tell the key points? But as soon as he finished speaking, he found that something was wrong with the atmosphere in the Great Hall. Everyone looked at him with indifferent eyes, which made Yongle City Master's scalp tingle. You go on, go on. The Lord of Yongle laughed and said, not daring to interrupt again. Only then did Lu Ping continue. My little girl's husband is extremely powerful. It is guessed that he is at least a mysterious immortal powerhouse, and may even be an immemorial golden immortal realm. Having said that, everyone understood what Lu Ping wanted to express. Li Qingming, the Lord of Shanghai City, asked, I'm a little confused, how do you know that the other party is a strong person above mysterious immortal realm? Also, how can you be sure that he can help me? A echoing voice sounded immediately. That's right, if the other party is really that strong, can Lu Ling let him help us Wandao Immortal Dynasty? Behind the Lingqiang Dynasty are Devil Dao and Yaozu. These two major forces have mysterious immortal powerhouses, and even immemorial golden immortal. I have also heard of Lu Ling, a genius of the Tianling Lu clan. But it's not enough for a strong man to offend the Yaozu and the demon cult, right? Behind the demon cult this time, there is the shadow of the spirit sect. I heard that the sect leader of the spirit sect also broke through the mysterious immortal realm decades ago. Every human being is deeply suspicious of this. Obviously, they didn't quite agree with Lu Ping's plan. When Lu Ping heard it himself, he also began to feel a little unconfident. Let Lu Ling's husband help them Wandao Immortal Dynasty. The probability of success is too low. If retreating second, let him protect the Tianling Lu family, the probability should be even higher. Yang Zan's eyes were also full of disappointment. It seems that this road still won't work. But no matter what, he still wanted to try it, so he said. Elder Liuping, can you contact this strong man? If he is willing to help me Immortal Dynasty, I can agree to any conditions. I am willing to give away all the proceeds of Wandao Immortal Dynasty in the next 10,000 years, and other things can also be discussed. Hiss. There was a sudden gasp in the Great Hall. Yang Zan's decisiveness surprised everyone. But Yang Zan was very calm about it. If Wandao Immortal Dynasty was gone, it would be a long way off for him to break through the mysterious immortal realm. Presumably, 10,000 years of free work is not unacceptable. For a cultivator like him, 10,000 years is not too long, and it will pass after a while. Lu Ping immediately added, My lord, I just wanted to say that Linger came back from the lower realm, so that strong man must be with him, we can negotiate and try. Yang Zan stood up fiercely. Okay, since that's the case, please ask Liu Ping Elder to lead the way. Lu Ping nodded immediately, of order. Seeing that Yang Zan had already made up his mind, everyone present had nothing to say. Moreover, in their view, this is indeed the only way at the moment. Give it a try. Everyone did not report too high expectations. According to what Lu Ping said, others are strong people who started from mysterious immortal, and Lu Ling is a female stream, the most indispensable thing in the upper realm is a woman. Would others still help Wandao Immortal Dynasty for Lu Ling? Besides, the income of the 10,000 years is even more false. It is not certain whether Wandao Immortal Dynasty can still exist for 10,000 years. It's a bit like painting a pie. A group of people left with Lu Ping, heading towards Lu Ling. At the end of the crowd, there was a young and handsome man with cold eyes. Lu Ling. While muttering, he took out a jade talisman. The next moment, the jade talisman turned into a spot of light and dissipated in his hand. After doing all this, he chased forward. No matter who you are, don't help Wandao Immortal Dynasty. He is considered a small person in Wandao Immortal Dynasty, and cooperating with Lingqiang Immortal Dynasty is the only chance to stand up. If Wandao Immortal Dynasty cannot be destroyed, then there is a high probability that he will be exposed, which is not worth the candle. A mysterious immortal, they should be able to solve it too. Not necessarily. Wandao Immortal Dynasty is not very strong, and neither the Yaozu nor the demon cult may send out mysterious immortal powerhouses. Damn it, the Lingliu clan is really a bad thing today. Wandao Immortal Dynasty somewhere. Chen Daojun slowly walked out of the void. He turned his head and looked around, his eyes full of doubts. Is this the upper realm? To be honest, the surrounding scene is actually not much different from the lower realm. The biggest change is that there is only immortal qi in the world, and there is no spiritual qi. Under such an environment, it should be very easy to break through the immortal rank. Chen Daojun estimated that breaking through the immortal stage in the upper realm should be as simple as breaking through the golden core stage in the lower realm, and it can be easily done with a little effort. Moreover, the rules between heaven and earth are more perfect, and it will take more effort to tear apart the void. Of course, this effort is still very simple for him. Lu Ling took a deep breath, with a faint smile on the corner of her mouth, finally back to the upper realm. In comparison, Bai Ruer is much calmer. She has long been used to staying in the upper realm. For her, sometimes going to the lower realm to play is a better experience. 49%. Chapter 157 Asking for help. Chen Daojun. Is this the Wandao Immortal Dynasty? Chen Daojun spoke in a very calm tone. He also has a certain understanding of the upper realm, some of which he learned from Chen Yuanliang, and some of which he learned from Lu Ling. Lu Ling said with some doubts. Why does it feel a little different here? There are still quite a few people in Wandao Immortal Dynasty. Although they can't be seen everywhere, it's impossible not to see a single figure. Her divine sense spread out, and there was no one around. This is a bit too abnormal. Lu Ling's expression was a little dignified, and a bad feeling rose in her heart. Chen Daojun was also extremely puzzled and said, isn't this Wandao Immortal Dynasty a bit too deserted? He hasn't paid attention to the information sent by Chen Yuanliang recently, so he doesn't know many things about the upper realm. Lu Ling looked around for a while, nodded and said, it's really a bit deserted. Husband, why don't you go back to my clan to have a look? Chen Daojun nodded with a smile. No problem. Then he looked at Bai Ruer, who also nodded, expressing that he had no objection. Just when they were about to set off, a voice of wild laughter came from far away in an instant. Old man Yang Zan, come and die. This laughter is full of hatred and boundless killing intent. Suddenly, Yang Zan, who was following behind Lu Ping, froze. No, they are coming to attack again. Li Qingming's face was a bit ugly, and everyone else quickly looked at Yang Zan. In this case, only His Majesty can make a decision. To fight, or not to fight. Yang Zan frowned. Lu Ping Elder, please hurry up. If you can't get that strong man to help Wandao Immortal Dynasty, let's disband. Continuing to fight against them will only lead to the loss of more people. Such casualties are meaningless. Yang Zan is also very decisive. Being alive is countless times more important than Wandao Immortal Dynasty. If there is no chance to resist the people of Lingqiang Immortal Dynasty, then there is no need to stick to it. When the others heard the words, they were all a little silent. Several people showed unwillingness on their faces. Compared to Yang Zan, they were even more unwilling to see Wandao Immortal Dynasty disintegrate. But right now there is really no way. Hearing this, Lu Ping nodded solemnly, and then quickly moved towards the direction of Lu Ling's aura. He silently prayed in his heart that Ling'er's husband could help them. Otherwise, their Tianlingliu clan would have to flee for their lives with Yang Zan. Tian Lingliu's defection from the monster race was not all because of their closeness to the human race, there were also internal problems within the monster race. There are also intrigues between the monster clan. They also had a mysterious immortal strongman back then, but they were also killed by other monsters. If it wasn't for the Tianlingliu clan running fast, they would probably have been wiped out by now. The destruction of Wandao Immortal Dynasty means that they can only escape with Yang Zan, and they cannot choose other human races. Yang Zan has been a partner for many years, and it is only reliable if he is with him. Other human races may not be as friendly to the Tianlingliu clan as Yongzan. After all, they are still monster races, and they are opponents of human races. Father, why are you here? From a distance, Lu Ling saw Lu Ping coming towards him, and there were many familiar big figures beside him, His Majesty of Wandao Immortal Dynasty, various city lords, and patriarchs. What's going on here? Lu Ling's eyes were a little strange. Some doubts. When Lu Ping saw Chen Daojun who was beside Lu Ling, joy suddenly appeared on his face. However, he did not speak to Chen Daojun immediately, but looked at Lu Ling with concern. Ling how have you been all these years? Wandao Immortal Dynasty is everyone, and Lu Ling is his small family, his own family. Lu Ping asked himself that he was not a saint, and he was naturally more worried about his daughter than the survival of Wandao Immortal Dynasty. Everyone else looked at Chen Daojun and Bai Ruer very curiously. Is this the strong man Lu Ping mentioned? Cultivation base is indeed unfathomable, and it seems that what it says is true. Lu Ling smiled. Father, I'm fine, you guys are. Lu Ping was speechless for a while. He turned his head and glanced at the group of people behind him, then at Lu Mu who had a plain face, and his mind immediately came to his senses. I seem to have come up with a bad idea. He thought that he was just the one who made plans, but he didn't expect to be the one who carried it out. Chen Daojun is Lu Ling's husband, and as Lu Ling's father, he is the only person who has a relationship with Chen Daojun. But when he asked for help, something was different. The old man opened his mouth. Do you have the nerve to refuse? Lu Ping suddenly felt a little regretful. This was something that was indebted. However, he had no choice but to shoot when the arrow was on the string, so he could only bite the bullet and said to Chen Daojun. My lord, Wandao Immortal Dynasty is in danger now, please help me. Chen Daojun waved his hand with a smile, and everyone was taken aback. Refuse so simply. You don't need to address me as an adult. My name is Chen Daojun, and I have a father relationship with Ling just call me by my first name. Lu Ping hurriedly took this opportunity to get in touch. He laughed and said, okay, then I'll call you Daojun. Chen Daojun nodded with a smile. When Yongzan saw Lu Ping open his mouth, he knew he couldn't keep looking at him like this, so he took a step forward and saluted with cupped hands, then said respectfully. My lord, the villain Yongzan. As long as my lord is willing to save Wandao Immortal Dynasty, I am willing to hand over the 10,000 years income of Immortal Dynasty in the future, and ask my lord to help me through the crisis. Crisis? Lu Ling's eyes were full of doubts, and he asked, what crisis is His Majesty referring to? Yongzan smiled wryly, and then told everything, and also emphasized that there is a high probability that the mysterious immortal will not be shot again. Everyone present immediately looked at Chen Daojun with expectant eyes, and so did Lu Ling. Chen Daojun met Lu Ling's gaze, and stretched out his hand to gently stroke her head. For such a small matter, Ling can just make a decision. Trifle. It seems that this strong man is really not simple. Even involving the demon cult and the Yaozu, he can still be so calm and composed. In front of so many people, with such an intimate gesture, Lu Ling couldn't help but blushed slightly. Seeing this scene, Lu Ping smiled. Ling has found a man who loves her, which is considered a good home. At this moment, a loud voice sounded. Yongzan, get out. Otherwise I will slaughter Yongle City today. Hearing the shouting sound, City Lord Yongle and Yongzan both changed, and then looked towards Chen Daojun. Cultivators who massacre too much will definitely be targeted by the Immortal Monarch House, but if it is appropriate, it will not be a big problem. They may not be unable to do things like massacre Yongle City. Chen Daojun smiled. Let's go, I want to see who is so arrogant. 49%. Chapter 158. Slaughtering the City. Everyone in Wandao Immortal Dynasty was overjoyed when they heard the news. If a mysterious immortal-level powerhouse really wants to preserve the Immortal Dynasty, it should be possible. Many people looked at Lu Ping with some envy. This luck is too good. How can a daughter be so bad as an old father-in-law when she is next to a man who loves her so much? Yongzan said quickly. City Master Yongle, lead the way quickly. Upon hearing this, the Lord of Yongle quickly said respectfully. My lord, this way please. After all, a group of people headed towards Yongle City. Chen Daojun's face was indifferent, and with his temperament, he actually didn't bother to care about these things. But Wandao Immortal Dynasty is also Lu Ling's hometown, so it's no problem to give him a blessing. As for the 10,000-year resources mentioned by Yongzan, he actually doesn't care. He is about to break through the immortal monarch realm now, so what's the use of a true immortal resource from him? Chen Daojun asked. Ruler, the heavenly Tao rules in the lower realm are not perfect. Does it mean that the lower realm will never be able to produce a powerful cultivator? He didn't really want to move Juxiao divine dynasty out of the celestial star realm, so he was very curious. Bai Ruer nodded. The difference between the upper realm and the lower realm is the strength of the Tao power. In the lower realms, the power of the Tao is very weak, so the laws of heavenly Tao in those worlds are relatively weak, while the upper realms are the opposite. If you want a certain world in the lower realm to become stronger, you can only break through to the immortal emperor realm, nurture the whole world with yourself, and replace the heavenly Tao law of that world. Chen Daojun understood that in the future, Nine Heavens divine dynasty still has to leave the celestial star realm. His original plan was that the headquarters of the divine dynasty would always be in the celestial star realm, commanding the 10,000 realms, but now it seems that this way is not very good. But, Bai Ruer continued to speak, don't my husband have a spring called Lingqi? If you can fill the lower realm with it, it should also greatly enhance the heavenly Tao law of the lower realm, and at the same time increase the power of the Tao. Why is there a distinction between the upper and lower bounds? The fundamental reason is that the lower bounds are weaker. If conditions permit, the lower bounds can also be stronger than the upper bounds. At that time, the lower realm can also be renamed, Immortal World, God Realm, etc. Chen Daojun's eyes lit up immediately. Yes, after breaking through the Immortal King, he also discovered that the lower realm is actually not that vast and has an end, at least certainly not comparable to the upper realm. You can convert the God-level spiritual pool springs into top-grade spiritual pool springs, and then place them in the lower realm, and then let Juxiao Divine Dynasty occupy all these worlds and unify the entire lower realm. Chen Daojun looked a little excited. He really could do this. I can start by myself, and let him continue to do it after my son is born. Yongle City. On the city wall, the faces of thousands of soldiers were full of fear. I saw a crowd of people standing in the distance, and the group of people standing in the front had even more powerful and scary aura. Each of them was a true immortal level powerhouse. Among them stood 3 people at the head, namely the Emperor of Linquing Immortal Dynasty, and 1 person and 1 demon representing the demon clan and the demon sect. Ji Yu Pengshan sneered and said, Your Majesty Linquing must have taken too much into consideration. The strongest strength of the Wandao Immortal Dynasty is the true immortal realm. Our combined strength far surpasses them. These days, they could have won Wandao Immortal Dynasty long ago, but Kai Zunqing was extremely conservative, which led to the lack of obvious progress. Kai Qingxun just chuckled, but did not answer. Associating with the demon cult and the Yaozu, one must be careful so as not to play with fire and set himself on fire. Therefore, in the process of annexing Wandao Immortal Dynasty, it must be ensured that there will be no strong people falling in Linquing Immortal Dynasty, so that only after the matter is over, can they be qualified to negotiate with the demon cult and the Yaozu. On the Yaozu side, this time it was a half-blooded dragon with a 1 horn, his eyes were cold, and the corners of his mouth were full of sarcasm. The human race is cunning. But for Kai Zunqing's caution, he was somewhat indifferent. This time, there is no conspiracy in this cooperation, it's just that their monster clan is planning to expand their power. The human and monster races in the upper realm are very at odds. If the monster race moves too much, it will definitely attract the attention of other strong human races, and the gains will outweigh the losses. Therefore, it is also the best choice for them to cooperate with Demon Sect and Linquing Immortal Dynasty. Compared with their calm, the whole Yongle city is full of panic. They won't really massacre the city. Can the immortal monarch government condone such behavior? A lot of people have left Yongle city in the past few days. If we were all killed, it might not attract the attention of the immortal monarch mansion. Damn it, then what should we do? Are we just waiting to die? What about His Majesty? Did he abandon us too? Wandao Immortal Dynasty has been established for hundreds of 10,000 years, and many people were born here life. Wandao Immortal Dynasty has long established a kind of big family friendship. But now hearing that His Majesty abandoned them, many people couldn't help feeling a little sentimental. Even some women's eyes were even more red, and tears rolled down their faces. But at any rate, he is also a cultivator of immortal rank, and finally managed to control his emotions. Damn it, they want to massacre the city. Even if we die, we have to bite off a piece of his flesh. I don't know who yelled, and the cultivators in the city suddenly became excited, with a great determination to die. That is, if you want to kill us, you have to pay a price. Suddenly, an extremely powerful aura enveloped the entire Yongle city. Kai Qingxuan's eyes were full of coldness. Yang Zan must die, and there will only be endless troubles. Not only him, but also Ji Yu Pengxian and the Yaozu beside him think so. Yang Zan is now true immortal returned to origin, and he is just one step away from the mysterious immortal realm. He may break through at any time, and who can stop him if he seeks revenge? Demon Sect and Yaozu should be able to do it, but Linquing Immortal Dynasty can't stop it. So using Yongle City to force Yang Zan is the best choice. Kai Zunqing's eyes were full of coldness. It's almost time, let's slaughter Yongle City. With an order, one after another powerful aura erupted and rushed towards Yongle City. A mere Yongle City, do you really think I dare not slaughter it? Kai Zunqing said coldly, as long as the size of the massacre of the city is properly grasped, the immortal monarch mansion will not bother. Those who died were just a group of ants. Unless all the people of Wandao Immortal Dynasty were slaughtered, the immortal monarch house would probably not care. Of course, Kai Zunqing will not keep massacring the city. One piece of Yongle City is almost enough. If you continue to kill him, what if the people from the immortal monarch mansion find him displeased and shoot him to death? Looking at the group of immortal cultivators galloping towards Yongle City, the soldiers on the city wall were all wide-eyed. It's over, it's all over. The coolness continued to spread in my heart, and the feeling of death welled up in my heart. Stop. A violent breath galloped from a distance in an instant. 49%. Chapter 159 Immortal King. A phantom of thousands of feet condensed from Yong'an City, and he looked towards Kai Zunqing's person in front. His eyes were full of anger and killing intent. Your Majesty is here. Your Majesty is here to save us. Let me just say, Your Majesty will definitely not give up on us. Everyone in Yongle City cheered with excitement. Seeing this, Kai Zunqing's people in the distance immediately became murderous. The one they wanted to kill the most was of course Yang Zan, and the others were nothing. Yang Zan, you are destined to fall here today. Kai Zunqing roared angrily, and then whispered to the people around him, today, no matter what, we must take down this person. This is related to whether we can firmly occupy Wandao Immortal Dynasty in the future. The three forces all nodded. In an instant, phantoms emerged one after another, and each phantom was 1,000 feet high. Yongle City was like a toy in front of these phantoms. The people on Wandao Immortal Dynasty's side all hurriedly looked towards the rear. I saw the three of them approaching at a leisurely pace, and the young man walking in front of him was extremely handsome, and he stood with his hands behind his back, his aura beyond dust. The two women beside him were also as beautiful as angels, and they couldn't take their eyes away after just a glance. Chen Daojun was still chatting with Bai Ruer, with a slight smile on his lips. Feeling the eyes of the people around him, he slightly raised his head towards the distance. Kill. One by one, the giants of the sky rushed towards Yang Zan. Their power was terrifying. Seeing this scene, the Lord of Yongle City appeared beside Yang Zan in a flash. His face was full of panic. If there was a big battle here, the people of Yongle City would definitely not be able to survive. Damn it. This is own territory. Li Qingming and the others looked anxiously at Chen Daojun, and now only he can solve the problem in front of them. But Chen Daojun didn't have the slightest idea of making a move. Was it tricked? This idea was born in everyone's mind. Chen Daojun locked on Ji Yu Pengxian after just a glance. Breath of the Divine Sect. This should be the Demon Sect Spirit Sect from the upper realm. It's really a fate, and I ran into it as soon as I came up. In the distance, the battle in front of Yongle City was about to break out, and the terrifying fluctuations surged in an instant. Chen Daojun smiled and said, kill him. Killed someone. What's the meaning? The people around him all looked dumbfounded, not knowing what it meant. But the next moment, it was dark, everyone felt a little bit numb, and the whole person seemed to be stuck in a quagmire. At this time, they felt like an ant, extremely small. What exactly is this? Everyone was horrified, and their eyes were full of horror. Suddenly, a giant hand appeared and enveloped everyone in it. World Master. This breath is so powerful, it reminds me of a realm cultivator. Immortal King. World Lord. Only such a strong person can bring such a strong sense of oppression to people. To control the world just like this, even the immemorial Golden Immortal would find it difficult to do it. This is only possible with the half-step Immortal King. Who is it? The eyes of Kai Zunqing and the others were full of fear. Could it be that the Immortal Monarch Mansion is not happy about joining forces with Devil Dao? How is this possible? Such things have happened before, but the immortal monarch government didn't take care of it, so why did they just take care of themselves? Everyone's eyes blurred. The giant hand grabbed it, and the phantoms that were originally powerful were all caught and exploded, and the real body fell again on the spot. However, Yongzhan and Yongle City Lord in the center have nothing to do. Kai Zunqing, Ji Yu Pengshan and others, including the other strong men behind them, are also under this giant hand. In an instant, it turned into powder and dissipated under the heaven and earth. Everyone's eyes widened, watching everything that happened in front of them in disbelief. The sound of pumping air continued to sound, and the exclamation of Yongle City also continued to come out. How strong does it have to be to crush so many true immortals so easily? The people of Wandao Immortal Dynasty all looked at Chen Daojun with shocking expressions. Apparently their hearts were too shocked to calm down. And they were sure that it was definitely not Chen Daojun who did it just now, but someone else. But no matter what, being able to control an immortal king is really terrifying. Such a strong person makes them a little unimaginable. They looked at Lu Ping again, their eyes full of doubts. This is how you said mysterious immortal started, most likely immemorial golden immortal. This is the beginning of the immortal king. In Zui Immortal Domain, it is impossible to control a strong immortal king. Master Immortal Monarch, Zui Immortal Domain is the only one who can do it, right? I'll be good. Everyone looked at Chen Daojun with awe and fear in their eyes. Chen Daojun's eyes are always extremely calm. It's just a group of true immortal realms. He doesn't need to do it himself. Moreover, there are many familiar auras in Wandao Immortal Dynasty. These are the true immortal powerhouses and immortal king powerhouses he summoned. Why didn't I sense the breath of those little guys? Chen Daojun was a little puzzled. He didn't pay much attention to it before, but now he realized that there was no trace of Chen Shang and the others around the entire Wandao Immortal Dynasty. Lu Ling smiled lightly and said, "Husband, after ascension, you will enter the ascension land of Zui Immortal Domain, and then distribute it to the major forces." Chen Daojun raised his eyebrows. There is also a special place for reception, the treatment is good. Lu Ling continued, "My husband doesn't know something. Generally, cultivators who ascend in the lower realm are the treasures of the major forces in the upper realm. It is very difficult for a cultivator in the lower realm to cultivate to the transcend tribulation stage. As long as he ascends, he can be regarded as a genius in the upper realm. Therefore, after ascension, he will usually join some big forces to cultivate." Chen Daojun showed a clear look. But it's normal when you think about it carefully. It's really too difficult for a cultivator in the lower realm to ascend. However, the environment in the upper realm made it very easy for them to break through the immortal rank, and they even had better talents. They were born as cultivators of the immortal realm. Lu Ling was also used to Chen Daojun's questions. At the beginning, she thought that Chen Daojun was deliberately looking for topics, so he kept chatting with her about the upper world. It was later discovered that Chen Daojun really didn't know. Lu Ling was also very puzzled, why her husband was able to break through even in the lower realm. This kind of thing is too unreasonable. Looking at the calm Chen Daojun, everyone else present couldn't help swallowing. This is really too strong. Lu Ping was also very excited. The Tianling Lu clan had found a real boss. It doesn't matter whether Chen Daojun is Zui Immortal Monarch or not. The opponent can use an Immortal King powerhouse, which means that he is at least an Immortal King powerhouse to start with. It doesn't matter if it's Zui Immortal Monarch or not. 50%. Chapter 160 The Strange Immortal King, Tianqian Immortal Domain. At the moment when Immortal King's aura erupted in Wandao Immortal Dynasty, several Immortal Kings in Immortal Monarch's mansion opened their eyes at the same time, with serious expressions on their faces. Unfamiliar Immortal King breath. The next moment, their figures came to the main hall and looked towards the towering figure at the top. The first charming woman said, "Master Immortal Monarch, my subordinates have detected a strange Immortal King appearing in the north of Zui Immortal Domain, and it should not be our own." Zui Immortal Monarch's eyes moved slightly. He naturally knew about the unfamiliar Immortal King, but there was no reaction. There was a look of worry in the depths of his eyes. That person's strength is too strong. If the opponent really wants to devour Zui Immortal Domain, he can't stop it, and even himself will fall. During these times, many Immortal King breaths appeared in Zui Immortal Domain. These people all have one thing in common: they have the aura of the celestial star realm on their bodies. So he didn't bother about it, for fear of making that person from the celestial star realm unhappy again. A lot of Immortal Kings have appeared in Zui Immortal Domain recently, but they Can't move. Zwei Immortal Monarch's tone was a bit dignified. Including you too, if you meet an unfamiliar immortal king, remember not to go up and do it. First ask whether it is from the celestial star realm. The celestial star realm. The eyes of several people were full of doubts, obviously very confused about the name. Have you heard clearly? Zwei Immortal Monarch said in an extremely serious tone. If you dare to provoke them, don't blame this immortal monarch for being rude. Everyone was shocked. The fear in Zwei Immortal Monarch's tone was too obvious. There's even a little dread. But they really don't understand. Is there anyone in Zwei Immortal Domain who is stronger than Master Immortal Monarch? The charming woman asked cautiously. Master Immortal Monarch, what's going on? Zwei Immortal Monarch's eyes moved slightly, but he didn't say anything about Chen Daojun, so as not to get angry. These things are not your business, just do your own thing well. By the way, is there anything going on at Tianqian Immortal Domain recently? The psychic medium shook his head and said, recently, everything is as usual, but judging from the information obtained from inquiries, they are not being honest these days. Zwei Immortal Domain needs to make preparations in advance. Hearing this, Zwei Immortal Monarch couldn't help but rubbed his temples, a tired look flashed across his face. Internal and external troubles. There are unknown powerhouses inside the Immortal Domain, and Tianqian Immortal Domain is watching outside. There's Zwei Immortal Domain and Tianqian Immortal Domain have fought for at least 2 or 3 eras, and they have always been evenly matched. However, Tianqian Immortal Domain has emerged many talents over the years, and the gap between them has gradually widened. Although the strength at the top is still about the same, the people below have begun to widen the gap. If it continues to develop, the Immortal King of Tianqian Immortal Domain may surpass their Zwei Immortal Domain. And in the worst case, if Tianqian Immortal Domain is born an Immortal Monarch is strong, it will be a devastating blow to Zwei Immortal Domain. He broke through the Immortal Monarch realm, relying on this Zwei Immortal Domain, not the Immortal Monarch that relies on its own breakthrough alone. So he can't lose Zwei Immortal Domain, otherwise realm will definitely fall from Immortal Monarch realm. Zwei Immortal Monarch's eyes were serious. Spiritual medium, haven't a few young people ascended recently? You take good care of them and train them carefully. 30 years later, the Wenxian Dabi will rely on them. Rely on them. The psychic's small mouth grew slightly, and he couldn't help but exclaim. The Wenxian Grand Competition is a conference jointly organized by Zwei Immortal Domain and Tianqian Immortal Domain. It not only has rich rewards, but also a place for the younger generation to show their talents. Of course, the most important thing is the secret rivalry between the 2 immortal domains. Master Immortal Monarch, they are still too young, although they are extremely talented, but... Zwei Immortal Monarch said unquestionably. Those youngsters all have peerless physiques, and they were able to ascend from the mortal realm in their 30s. This is really too heaven-defying. Other people are presumably a bit too ordinary. They can ascend in their 30s and give them another 30 years of world. It is not difficult to break through an Earth Immortal's realm. With careful cultivation, it is also possible to break through the celestial realm of. The 10,000 Immortals Conference is just a competition for the Immortals below. With their talents, they should still be able to get a good ranking. Zwei Immortal Domain's younger generation is completely stretched, so he can only hope for these young people who have just ascended. If people from Zwei Immortal Domain continue to participate, it is estimated that the ranking will be at the bottom by then. Thinking of this, Zwei Immortal Monarch looked sad. Seeing this, the psychic didn't say much, and respectfully took his orders and left. After the psychic left, Zwei Immortal Monarch looked up at the stars in the sky, with deep sorrow in his eyes. What is the future of Zwei Immortal Domain? Of course he knows why Zwei Immortal Domain has been distanced by Tianqian Immortal Domain these years. It is precisely because he has been too flat all these years. After breaking through the Immortal Monarch, the years have passed, year after year, but he has never noticed that the cultivation base is increasing. Slowly, he lost his love for monasticism. In the upper realm, a cultivator like him who relies on the Immortal Domain to break through the Immortal Monarch realm belongs to the lowest Immortal Monarch. Those who are truly talented and powerful rely on their own perceptions to break through. The Immortal Monarch, including the Immortal Domain of that day, also had the same breakthrough method. In recent years, the 2 immortal domains have been fighting fiercely, but in the eyes of the somewhat tough Immortal Monarch, it's like chickens pecking at each other. Without the enthusiasm for cultivating Taoism, he has not made any significant operations in the past 2 eras. As a result, the entire Zwei Immortal Domain has not only not become stronger, but the fresh power has begun to weaken. Where is the road to Zui Immortal Domain, and where is my road? Zui Immortal Monarch really wants to cultivate and grow up, but he can't do it at all. The cultivation base is like being sealed with cement, without the slightest progress. He looked outside in a daze, his eyes full of confusion. Forget it, let's take a step and see. Wandao Immortal Dynasty. The three of Chen Daojun bid farewell to Yang Zan and the others, and then walked towards the Tianling Lu clan. My lord, go slowly. Yang's expression was so respectful that he almost knelt down to him directly. Watching Chen Daojun disappear, Yang Zan also heaved a sigh of relief. It's finally over. No, it's not over yet. Yang Zan turned his head to look at a young man. Being stared at like this, the young man suddenly showed a panicked expression. My king, is there something wrong? Yang Zan snorted coldly. He raised his hand and grabbed it. Mingxie, you betrayed Wandao Immortal Dynasty. Is it true that the deity doesn't know about it? My king, please forgive me. People from Lingqiang Immortal Dynasty forced me to do this, and I don't. Yang Zan didn't bother to talk nonsense with him, so he directly crushed him to death. Then he coldly glanced around, but didn't speak. During the time when Wandao Immortal Dynasty was under siege, many of them were planning to retreat, but he thought that there was some friendship in the past, so he didn't bother to expose it. But now that the Immortal Dynasty is stable, it is natural to not continue to have such thoughts. Need to scare the chickens and monkeys. Need to scare the chickens and monkeys. Need to scare the